Chapter 1906. Boss. Portia was here for breakfast again. Take care of the house, Qin Zhao said. I have something to do in the morning. Qin, where are you going in the morning? West and the others are going to Africa, Qin Zhao said. I'm taking them to the airport. When Qin Zhao arrived at the headquarters, the luggage of 20 to 30 people filled up 2 trucks. There was no one in Qin Zhao's MPV. It was filled with luggage. Qin Zhao increasingly felt that he should get a private plane. West sat in the front passenger seat. President, I heard something happened to Xi in Edinburgh? Yes, something happened. Qin Zhao nodded. I'll pretend that I don't know. I don't want to hurt her confidence. Qin Zhao also understood that it was impossible for someone to be completely fine outside. Moreover, there was a certain degree of danger in the spirit world. You couldn't blame Ron Faxburn, Rissa, and more. After all, they weren't real nannies and bodyguards. They couldn't watch Xi all the time. If Xi was called back because of something like this, Xi would probably be traumatized for the rest of her life. Is there any news from the government? Not at the moment. West shook his head. This matter might not fall on us. Any news from the psionic team? No, they've been very obedient recently. They're just developing themselves quietly. Developing? Expanding? Qin Zhao and West had talked about the development of the supernatural organization. In the end, they decided that expanding wasn't a good choice. If there were too many people, there would be conflicts between factions. Most people in the organization didn't like to play politics. Even Qin Zhao didn't understand politics. So, rather than being disloyal when there were too many people, it was better to take the path of fewer people. Having more people was never a problem. Qin Zhao and West hoped that there were more people. The more people there were, the messier it would be. The more people there were, the easier it would be for them to sneak in. Qin Zhao sent them to the airport. He saw Yangue and Lily. Looking at their big and small bags, they seemed to be going far away. Yang, where are you going? Back home, Yangue said unhappily. Back home? For what? What do you mean? Do I need your permission to go back home? What do you think? Qin Zhao smiled at Yangue. Yangue's face kept twitching. I'll send Lily to Mount Longhu, Yangue said after adjusting his tone. She can go to China, but you can't, at least not for the next 6 months. Why? Although I lost the bet to you, I didn't sell myself. No, you did sell yourself. Qin Zhao shook his head. It's not safe for a woman to go to a strange place. Huaxia is the safest place in the world. Why would it be unsafe? It's not like we're sending her to some battlefield. I'll go back to Los Angeles soon. If you don't come back, I can still go to Dragon Tiger Mountain to catch you, Qin Zhao said matter-of-factly. You're not allowed to go. How can you be like this? Do you believe that I can make you run 3 laps around the airport naked? Just trust me, okay? Not good. Yangue felt a wave of helplessness. Why was he so unlucky? He had just left Qin Zhao's place in the morning, and now he was at the airport again. To be honest, he really wanted to go back to China. As long as he hid in the country, Qin Zhao wouldn't be able to find him no matter how powerful he was. Qin Zhao took out his phone and called Yangue. In the end, there was no response. Wow, you even changed your phone number and you're not planning to run away? Qin Zhao glared at Yangue with a dark expression. This was awkward. Yangue twitched his lips. My number is offline because it owes me money. The operator is really bad, so I changed my number. Do you think I'll believe you? I'm serious. Okay, Ms. Lely, go to China alone. Have fun. Qin Zhao put his hand on Yangue's shoulder. Lely looked at Yangue, who could only nod helplessly. Lely, go. I've already arranged everything in China. My seniors will pick you up at the airport. Don't worry. Lely nodded. Yangue wanted to cry, but no tears came out. If he had entered the departure lounge, he wouldn't have run into Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao dragged Yangue out of the airport and into the car. What's your new phone number? It's the same one, then why can't I get through to you? Yanghua's face twitched again. Don't you know that phones have a function called the blacklist? What grudge do you have? Why did you put me on the blacklist? Let's not talk about this, okay? Yanghua kept sighing. Why was he so unlucky? Why was he caught by Qinzhao? Where are you going? Send me to my place, Yanghua said. Yanghua's place wasn't bad. It was a high-end neighborhood. But when he reached his house, Yanghua didn't get out. He kept frowning. What's wrong? There's an uninvited guest in my house. Yanghua was very unhappy. Which house is yours? Qinzhao asked. That one. Through Yanghua's directions, Qinzhao realized that there were 2 people in Yanghua's house. There are 2 people inside. Are they the uninvited guests? Qinzhao turned to Yanghua. Do you need me to send them away? No. I don't like them, but they're not enemies. They broke into your house. Aren't they enemies? I don't like them, but I don't want to be enemies with them. Who are they? An organization called the Spiritual Team. Qinzhao raised an eyebrow. Spiritual Team? Is the person in charge called Vestana? You know them? Yanghua looked at Qinzhao in surprise. The purpose of the Spiritual Team is to be my enemy, Qinzhao said. So they're your enemies? Good thing I didn't join them. Do they want you to join them? A smile appeared on Qinzhao's face. Seeing Qinzhao's smile, Yanghua had a bad feeling. Please don't ask me to be a spy. I don't have the talent. Since you're so enthusiastic, I'll agree to your request. You can join the Spiritual Team. What? I said I won't join. I'm from Dragon Tiger Mountain. I can't betray my master. It's fine. If old Zhang has any complaints, I'll handle it for you. Go in peace. I don't want, you don't have a choice, Qinzhao said coldly. Don't worry about being a spy. If there's any news, remember to tell me. You have my number. You can get out now. Chapter 1907. Can I say no? Yanghua looked at Qinzhao with a sad face. Oh, which generation are you from Dragon Tiger Mountain? Qinzhao suddenly changed the topic. The Dao generation. Are you the successor of Mount Longhu? No, why do you ask? It's fine. I just want to know if old Zhang will turn against me if I kill you. Qinzhao, we don't have such a big grudge. Also, my Grand Master loves me a lot. It's okay. I'll go find a few Qiao Fengs, Ling Huchong, Duan Yu, Guijing, Zhang Wuji, and so on. Your Grand Master just wants to have some fun. Hearing that, Yanghua felt even more stifled. In Qinzhao's words, he was a joke. All right, don't pull a long face. Go. Qinzhao patted Yanghua's shoulder. It's only half a year. It's not like you have to be an opportunist for the rest of your life. Yanghua did not believe this sentence. Being a spy once meant being a spy for a lifetime. After Yanghua got off, Qinzhao drove away. Just then, Qinzhao received Dell's call. Qin, come here. Oh, are you at home? No, I'm at the hotel. All right, I'll head over now. Qinzhao arrived at the hotel and saw that Li Qing was also in Dell's office. Qin, please persuade my master. What's there to advise? Sister Qing, what's wrong? Nothing, I just want Dell to help me save the money. It's nothing big, Li Qing said. She had a check in her hand. Qinzhao was confused. Dell, since Auntie Qing asked you to save money for her, just do it for her. What's so difficult about it? Qinzhao took the check from Li Qing and looked at it. His eyes almost popped out. $20 million. $20 million US dollars? Dell, did you give it to your master? Not me. Dell shook his head. Master said it was a client you introduced last time. That client paid her. Qinzhao was amazed. Last time, he had introduced Li Qing to Amira casually. Amira then introduced Li Qing to her father. She didn't expect her father to be so generous as to give her $20 million US dollars. This was an astronomical figure for any spiritualist. Even if it's a lot of money, it shouldn't be a problem, right? I can guarantee that the money came from a clear source. I'm not afraid that Master's money came from an unknown source. I just feel that with so much money, Master doesn't need to work for that old bastard Ethan anymore. In fact, this had nothing to do with 20 million US dollars. Even without 20 million US dollars, Dell was willing to take care of Li Qing until she died. Dell didn't like Ethan either. Even if Li Qing helped him take care of Faith and teach her spells, he would be more than happy to do so. Chen, help me persuade my master too. She's already so rich now. She doesn't need to work at Ethan's place all day. What advice can I give? I don't care. He knew that Li Qing didn't stay with Ethan for the salary. It was because to Li Qing, she was a grateful person. When she was at her most desperate, Qin Zhao and Ethan gave her a place to stay. Just then, Li Qing said, "Even with the 20 million, your headquarters can't make me do nothing, right? Master, I didn't say that I want you to just eat and wait to die. If you feel that you have nothing to do, come to my hotel. We are short of a department manager. You can come here and be a department manager. Isn't it better than that small motel? You don't need me. Plus, I can't be a department manager." Dell looked at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao shrugged. "I can't help you either." Dell was depressed. He'd had high hopes for Qin Zhao. But Qin Zhao rejected him directly. Qin Zhao knew that Dell and Ethan were fighting fiercely. However, they were both Qin Zhao's friends, so Qin Zhao never interfered. "Mr. Chen, did your cultivation improve again?" Li Qing clearly didn't want to continue this topic. She changed the topic to Qin Zhao. But Li Qing's eyesight was indeed good. Her cultivation wasn't high, but her eyesight was definitely rare. Even Zhang Tianyi might not have her eyesight. "Auntie Li, how can you tell? You have the chi of great minister now. Your face is a combination of dragon and tiger. Last time I saw you, you didn't have this, so I guess that your cultivation improved greatly or that you obtained some treasure. Master, what's the chi of great minister?" Chi refers to power. The so-called chi of great minister is described as the tides move the wind and clouds, the hidden dragon in the mountains, the spiritual light in the heart, the treasure elephant dancing in the wind. Li Qing said. "You haven't learned physiognomy yet, so you can't tell Mr. Chen's level. What about the combination of dragon and tiger? What is it?" In physiognomy, a person's face is divided into upper and lower chi. The upper is cloud and the lower is wind. The cloud follows the dragon and the wind follows the tiger. That's why it's said that everyone has a dragon and a tiger. When the chi is up, the dragon is a king. When the chi is down, the tiger is a hero. Mr. Chen's face is a combination of dragon and tiger. Master, look at my physiognomy. Do I have a chance to be a king or something? You're thinking too much. You have the face of a tiger rising to the sun and a dragon diving into the water. This is the face of prosperity and wealth, and you will not have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of your life. As for the dragon, it doesn't mean that you can be a king or an emperor, but it means that this kind of physiognomy is extremely precious in the world. It doesn't respect heaven and earth, it doesn't respect ghosts and gods, it only respects one's heart. Li Qing said. People with these two types of physiognomy are either too self-centered and selfish, or they're sinister and vile. Therefore, it's not advisable to have too much contact with these two types of people. Everyone will more or less have their chi fall and their lower chi rise. This is also a person's personality that changes constantly. You have this kind of personality, and so does Mr. Chen. Everyone is the same. Many people in the world can be summed up in this way. Li Qing paused and continued. And the chi of dragon and tiger is the embrace of wind and cloud, it's a combination of yin and yang. Only people with a clear mind can have this kind of physiognomy. This kind of physiognomy is worthy of the word great. The Qing sect was born out of Maoshan Taoism. Maoshan was not only good at refining corpses, but also good at physiognomy. The founder of the Qing sect, Shangliu Qingyi, traveled the world in his early years, relying on his physiognomy. Later on, He established his own sect and became the Qingyi sect. Shangyu Qingyi's name also spread all over the world. Li Qing was the current successor of the Qingyi sect. She had third-rate abilities in subduing demons, second-rate cultivation, and first-rate physiognomy. Is there anything special about the word great? Ordinary people look at their physiognomy, but people with great physiognomy can only look at their qi, not their faces. I still don't understand. Aren't they all the same? Looking at qi can see the present, not the future, but looking at the face can see the past, present, and future. Li Qing said. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 1908. Most of the Qingyi sect's books were still in Qin Zhao's hands. However, Qin Zhao couldn't learn physiognomy. Fei Lai, on the other hand, kept reading. As Li Qing's direct disciple, Dell also didn't know physiognomy. Actually, Li Qing cared more about Dell's daughter, Faith. Faith was too talented. She had a higher chance of inheriting Li Qing's legacy. Master, Chen's cultivation is higher than yours, right? Li Qing rolled her eyes. Mr. Chen's cultivation has always been higher than mine. Then how high is Chen's cultivation now? Then you should ask him yourself. Dell looked at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao shrugged. I can't tell how high it is, but I should be in the top 10 in the world. That strong? Dell wasn't convinced. Qin, let's fight. Qin Zhao and Li Qing rolled their eyes at the same time. Although cultivation did not represent one's battle prowess. But Qin Zhao said that he could be in the top 10 in the world. His combat ability definitely wasn't weak. Dell was still at a mediocre level. However, Dell still didn't have an accurate concept of cultivation and combat ability. It was mainly because he hadn't interacted with people from the spiritual world. Who had he interacted with now? Qin Zhao, Li Qing, and his daughter Faith. None of the three of them would really fight with him. So Dell always felt good about himself. Auntie Li, I'm going back, Qin Zhao said. Qin, don't go. Fight with me. Qin Zhao lifted his hand and flicked his finger. A small fist shadow hit the wall and created a hole. Dell, are you sure you want me to open a hole in your body? I can do it if I train for a while longer. Qin Zhao and Li Qing both smiled bitterly. Li Qing could tell that Qin Zhao hadn't even used 1% of his strength. Dell thought that Qin Zhao had used his full strength. But Qin Zhao didn't show his strength because he didn't want to give Dell too much pressure. It was just like the theory of speed racing. If one was ahead by only a body's length or a short distance, it would only incite the latecomers to catch up. However, if one was in the lead for 2 big laps, it would only bring despair to the latecomers and cause them to give up on the competition. Qin Zhao knew this, and so did Li Qing. Only Dell didn't. So he basically didn't use magic in front of Dell. Even if he used it, it would be like a dragonfly touching the surface of the water. Master, what kind of spell did Qin use to punch holes in the air? Many types of magic can do that, and the Green Robe sect has them as well. However, Qin Na Zhao is relatively simple. As long as your cultivation reaches his level, you can also do it. Master, can you do it? This? I'll try. Qin Zhao strolled through the back garden of the hotel, admiring the scenery. Dell and Risvar, on the other hand, understand and enjoy it. At this moment, a group of people came over. That group of people was surrounding a person. The 2 bodyguards in front cleared the way. The garden path was narrow, and it was difficult for 3 people to stand. Qin Zhao stood in the middle of the road. The 2 bodyguards walked up to him and tried to push him. Stop, go away. He actually enjoyed this process. He had a team of 10 personal assistants. There were also 4 bodyguards arranged by PLM to protect him during the North American trip. This was He's first time enjoying the treatment of a superstar. Yes, a superstar. A movie had made him one of the superstars. His fame both domestically and internationally had reached its peak. This time, he had come here not only for 2 North American interview shows, but also for the celebration party. However, when he saw Qin Zhao, he quickly pushed the 2 bodyguards away. Wang He jogged over to Qin Zhao and smiled at him. Mr. Qin, hello? Qin Zhao glanced at the team behind Wang He. You sure have a lot of people here. It's all thanks to Mr. Qin, Wang He said, smiling apologetically. The assistants behind him were all from China. Even Wang He's current manager was brand new. He could summon wind and rain in the Chinese entertainment industry, but he didn't dare to put on airs before Qin Zhao. After all, he wanted to take a few more movies in Hollywood. Plus, Qin Zhao's background wasn't as simple as Hollywood. Offending Qin Zhao here would result in terrible consequences. When did you come to Los Angeles? Just today. Oh, Qin Ke is here too. We're here for the celebration party, Wang He said. I was going to visit you 2 days ago. Then come visit when you're free. You know where I live, anyway. Qin Zhao nodded. I'll be going now. Okay, I won't see you off. Bye. Bye. Wang He kept his eyes on Qin Zhao. When he disappeared from his sight, he heaved a sigh of relief. Brother Wang, who is that person? Is he in the entertainment industry too? Manager Lu asked curiously. He had just been assigned to Wang He by the company. Lu wasn't old, but he was an experienced manager. His work style was also mature. He knew how to coordinate the interests of celebrities and various resources. He himself is a billionaire. The chairman of PLM and Steven are good friends of his. He was the one who helped me get the role in Abduction. Also, he was the one who arranged for me to play the role in Abduction. Also, my wife in the movie, Qin Ke, is his cousin. Wang He looked at little Lu. Do you think I would dare to be disrespectful to him? Little Lu gasped. He immediately understood why Wang He had lowered his stance so much earlier. Wang He still had some information that he didn't say. Qin Zhao's information wasn't as simple as he said. Will he appear at the celebration party? Probably not. He doesn't like that kind of occasion. Arrange a time and we'll visit him tomorrow. Okay, I'll arrange the time and schedule. Wang He was no longer a second-tier or third-tier celebrity. In the past, he had to strictly follow his manager's arrangements for all his activities and schedules. But it was different now. All the company's resources were focused on him. Of course, there was also Qin Ke. Qin Ke's resources weren't much less than his. After all, Qin Ke was famous and influential. She was also Qin Zhao's cousin. Wang He didn't dare to compete with Qin Ke. Of course, their actual conflicts weren't big. After all, their roles, character designs, and development directions were all different. Moreover, Wang He and Qin Ke played a couple in Kidnapping. Therefore, they were recognized as a screen couple and were very popular in the domestic market. Wang He didn't lack fame or status. What he lacked was experience. Wang He was very careful when choosing new works. He didn't dare to be careless. Chapter 1909. Now, there were a few Hollywood film companies that had offered him roles. But Wang He didn't agree. They were all third-tier companies. There wasn't even a second-tier company. None of them were A-grade or above either. Wang He didn't want to make an independent move either. He needed commercial recognition. Kidnapping had made him who he was. Now, he needed to consolidate his position. So, he needed a commercial film that had hope of success. Qin Zhao's power and connections were clearly a great help. Wang He obviously didn't want to become enemies with Qin Zhao. In the past, Qin Zhao had thought that the hardest job was being a doctor. But now, he felt that the hardest job was being a kindergarten teacher. When Qin Zhao returned home, Portia was already on the verge of breaking down. Qin Zhao's return was like a beacon of light in a sea of misery for Portia. Boss, you're finally back. Portia's face was covered in tears. I was only gone for half a day. What happened to you? Half a day? Why do I feel like half a century has passed? Okay, go rest. I'll call you when it's lunchtime. Qin Zhao patted Portia's shoulder. Portia rolled her eyes. Boss, I'm not tired anymore. Oh, since you're not tired, you can go buy takeout. I'll go rest. Portia found a guest room and laid down. She was really tired. Chen Zhao changed his clothes and leaned against the yard. A few kids were playing in the front yard. Some were on the beach. This was Chen Zhao's favorite state. Doing nothing. Just then, a car entered Mingwei Villa. Lola arrived with the 3 children. "Hi, Lola." Chen Zhao went up and kissed her. Then he looked at Vera, Ronnie, and Faith. "Lola, how come you're free today? Johnny went to Europe and I have to go to Australia tomorrow, so I can't take care of Vera and Ronnie. I could only bring them here." "What about Faith?" "Faith said that Vera and Ronnie aren't here and she's alone. After asking Dell, I brought her here too." "Okay." Chen Zhao shrugged. The 3 families were familiar with each other and trusted each other. They both had children, so it was normal for them to help each other take care of their children. He didn't know if Portia would go crazy after seeing 3 more children. The 3 boys were already on the beach. The 3 of them were no strangers to this place. "Stay for lunch." At the dining table, when Portia saw the 3 extra children, she looked as if she had nothing to live for anymore. On the other hand, Chen Zhao and Laura were chatting away. "By the way, is Johnny going to Europe for work?" "It's about work." Laura nodded. "One of the ocean shipping company's cargo ships has been hijacked in Somali waters, and the Somali pirates are now demanding a ransom of 50 million USD. Will Johnny be in danger?" Chen Zhao asked, frowning. "He won't go to Somalia. Nothing will happen to him. I'm fine." Chen Zhao nodded. "Is Somalia a place for people?" He didn't even know when a bullet would be fired from the shadows. "Where was Johnny's ship hijacked in the Somali waters?" "I know some pirates. Maybe they can help." "You know pirates?" Laura looked at Chen Zhao, surprised. "You know my job. Pirates have appeared in my patient list before. Are you sure that the pirates you know can help? Our biggest problem right now isn't money, but how to ensure the safety of the crew." Laura's words weren't just for humanitarian reasons, but for universal values. It also concerned the future of the ocean shipping company. If a company couldn't ensure the safety of its employees, it would be very passive. "I'm not 100% sure, but there's still hope. Even if we have to negotiate, it's better to negotiate with pirates than with Johnny." Of course, Chen Zhao knew that the Somali pirates were completely different from the pirates in other waters. Most of the Somali pirates were actually rebels. Plus, they wouldn't follow the rules, let alone be trustworthy. Laura hesitated for a moment. "Do you want to give it a try?" Laura wasn't confident. Of course, she didn't want Risfar to take the risk. But Risfar had always been very daring. Who knew if he would really go to Somalia? "Give me the cargo ship's information." After lunch, Laura was about to leave. "Chen, I'll leave it to you, but don't force yourself. At most, you'll have to pay a ransom. It's not unacceptable for us." "I understand." Chen Zhao nodded. After Laura left, Chen Zhao picked up the phone. "Guret, do you have any relationship with the Somali pirates?" "They're just a bunch of barbarians." "Why do you ask?" Guret asked, confused. "My friend's cargo ship was robbed. I'm afraid I can't help you. My people and I are only active in the Pacific. We can't set foot in the Somali waters." "Okay. Do you have any good suggestions?" "What do you want?" "My friend is in the shipping business, after all." "Will there be any problems?" Chen Zhao asked. "Don't worry. Those aren't normal pirates. They're just looking for an opportunity to do something. The power on the sea is at most a few small fishing boats. Next time, as long as we avoid this area and go a few hundred nautical miles, the Somali pirates won't be able to do anything." "Mr. Risfar, it's too risky." "You don't have to come here yourself." "No, I do." Risfar was in the Somali waters at the moment. He was on a modified armed ship. Risfar's expression didn't look good. He wanted to know why his cargo ship had been hijacked. He had some connections with the local rebel government. Every year, they would give him a few $1,000,000 for passage. Thus, his cargo ship often passed by this area. There had never been any danger or hijacking. A few $1,000,000 wasn't a lot, but it wasn't a small amount either. If all the ships under his company chose to go around this area, the cost would increase correspondingly. The price he would have to pay would be 10 times more than the few $1,000,000. He had to figure out if these pirates and the rebels behind them were still trustworthy, and if they could still maintain courtesy. After all, this wasn't a glorious thing. As the top ocean shipping company in Europe, if such a scandal was exposed, it would be a huge blow to the company's image. Risfar couldn't tell the negotiation team, so he could only do it himself. Chapter 1910. Just then, a fishing boat appeared in front of the ship. It wasn't even a third of the size of the ship. "Mr. Risfar, the ship in front sent a message. It's a messenger sent by Roaman. He's requesting to come closer." "Okay," Risfar said. "Let him come closer." Risfar stood on the deck of the ship and watched the fishing boat come over. But it didn't slow down. It still charged at Risfar. "Oh no, he's going to hit our ship. Shoot, shoot. We have to sink them. Our ship is so big. It should be fine, right?" Risfar didn't understand, but he didn't sound confident either. "Mr. Risfar, they must have explosives on the ship." But at this time, the fishing boat was too close, and the fishing boat was equipped with iron armor. The ship's firepower wasn't weak, but its cannons had medium to long range. It couldn't fire at the nearby fishing boat. The machine gun on the ship fired at the fishing boat's armor, but it didn't have any effect. The fishing boat had been scheming. It had tricked Risfar into crossing the safety line. "Mr. Risfar, get down!" Risfar's bodyguard suddenly pressed him to the ground. Boom! With a loud bang, the entire ship began to shake. The hull was severely damaged. It started tilting. Just then, a dozen fishing boats appeared around the ship. It was obvious that this was a trap that had been prepared beforehand. The crew on the ship fell into the water. Risfar also struggled on the surface. The people on the fishing boats started shooting at the sea. A lifeboat with a rope was thrown in front of Risfar. Then, he was pulled onto one of the boats. Less than 20 minutes later, he was thrown onto the deck. He went from a big boss to a prisoner. Risfar looked up and saw his former partner, Roaman, standing before him. Beside Roaman stood a white man. He clearly wasn't a Somali pirate. "Mr. Roaman, what do you think of my plan?" "Good, very good." Roaman grinned, revealing a mouth full of black teeth. Although Luo-Aman was dressed like a tribesman, he spoke fluent English. Luo-Aman looked at Risfar on the deck. "Mr. Risfar, this is the second time we've met, right? Roaman, do you know what you're doing?" Risfar was furious. "Of course I know, Mr. Risfar. I'm short of money recently, so I can only do this. I hope you can understand my difficulties," Luo-Aman said proudly. "How much do you want?" Risfar regretted it at the moment. However, he knew very well that if he didn't pay the price this time, he wouldn't be able to escape. In fact, he might even die here this time. "Not much, just 1 billion USD. You won't get the money," Risfar snorted. In the business world, asking for a sky-high price was important, and the same applied to kidnapping and ransom. If he directly agreed to the other party's request, then the other party would feel that he wanted too little. Then, he would ask for more money. "I believe your family will agree," the white man standing next to Luo-Aman said with his hands in his pockets. "You're dreaming." Risfar closed his eyes. "Crawl, are you sure that guy's family will pay? 1 billion USD. That's not a small amount." "Of course, I'm very sure." "Does he really have that much money?" For a Somali rebel leader like Luo-Aman, a few million USD was already a windfall for them. 1 billion USD was an unimaginably astronomical number. "Risfar's worth is much more than that," Kral said. "Much more than that? Then can we get more money?" Kral shook his head. "Although his worth is much more than that, he doesn't have that much cash unless he sells his assets. That will take a long time." "Then we can wait," Luo-Aman said. "No, we can't wait," Kral immediately objected firmly. Kroll immediately objected. People like him are too influential and powerful. He can even influence the government. We can't give his forces time to prepare. Once they're ready, it will be very troublesome. After taking the money, we'll kill him. Kill him? Can't we keep extorting him? Luo Amon said with pity. Keep extorting? You're thinking too much. Kroll sneered. Even you have to hide after taking the money. I'm not afraid. I have an army. Army? Can your army defeat the Americans? Kroll looked at the bumpkin in disdain. This guy didn't know when to stop. Kroll didn't want to expose himself. Since the bumpkin was so stupid, he couldn't let him live. Kroll knew very well that if he was exposed, then there would be endless trouble. Risfar's family wouldn't just let him go. Although Kroll was a professional mercenary, Risfar's family would definitely hire many killers and mercenaries. The number would be unimaginable. Kroll would be hunted for the rest of his life. No matter how capable Kroll was, he didn't want to face such a life. Luo Amon was naive enough to think that he could do whatever he wanted with an army. He didn't understand how terrifying capitalists were. After the fishing boat docked, Risfar was dragged ashore. Then, he was thrown into a smelly dungeon. Risfar knew very well that he wouldn't be able to survive this time. He was too confident. He thought that with enough force, he could protect himself even in Somalia. He didn't expect that Luo Amon would prepare a trap for him. Just then, the door to the dungeon opened again. Luo Amon and Kroll walked in. 2 other people came with them. They aimed their cameras at Risfar. Risfar immediately understood their intention. They wanted to film him being kidnapped and send it to Lola. This made Risfar very angry. But his anger was of no use. He couldn't do anything. Kroll threw a piece of paper to Risfar and asked him to read it. Risfar was obviously unwilling. But then, there was a series of punches and kicks. Risfar quickly gave in and compromised. These people were very heavy-handed. They beat Risfar until he curled up on the ground. The footage they filmed was even more cruel and bloody. Mr. Risfar, look. If you cooperate with us obediently, you won't have to suffer like this. Chapter 1911. Chen, something happened. Laura ran to Minghua Villa in a panic. What happened? Qin Zhao saw Laura running over in a hurry. Didn't he say he was going on a business trip today? However, when Laura saw Ronnie and Vera, she forced herself to control her emotions. Didi, take your sister outside to play, Qin Zhao said. After the children all left, Laura gave Qin Zhao her phone. It was a video. The more Qin Zhao watched, the more serious his expression became. What's going on? Johnny's in trouble. He went to Somalia and was kidnapped by the local rebels. Laura was at a loss. Chun, do you have cash? Johnny and I only have 200 million in our accounts. Yes. Qin Zhao nodded and picked up the phone. Andrews, help me transfer all the cash in my account. How much cash do I have? Hearing Andrews' answer, Qin Zhao nodded. At the same time, he said to Laura, Laura, don't worry. I have 600 million in my account. I'll find someone to borrow some more. Chun, I'll go find someone myself. It's okay. My friend has cash, Qin Zhao said, shaking his head. Okay, Laura, rest here. I'll go find my friend. Thank you, Qin. Qin Zhao called Fei Lai first, telling her to put down her work and come back to accompany Laura. Hearing the situation, Fei Lai immediately rushed back from the coastal rescue team. Laura, don't worry. Qin knows a lot of friends. It'll be fine. Fei Lai immediately went to Laura and comforted her. Laura actually wanted to believe Fei Lai, but she also knew that Fei Lai's words were mostly to comfort her. To Laura, it wasn't the time to think about money. Instead, she was thinking about whether Risfar could come back alive. Laura, do you know the information about the person who kidnapped Johnny? The more detailed, the better. I only know that his name is Roaman, a rebel leader in Malka. He has more than 10,000 people under him. Laura looked at Qin Zhao worriedly. Chun, is this enough? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. Fei Lai, stay with Laura. I'm going out. Okay. Fei Lai nodded understandingly. Mr. Graves, can I ask you something? Graves was surprised to receive Chen Zhao's call. Mr. Chen, did the two bodyguards I arranged make a mistake? Graves thought that something had happened to the two bodyguards, which was why Chen Zhao had called to question them. No, I wanted to ask if you have any intelligence on Somalia. What would you like to know, Mr. Chen? Graves asked. A rebel leader called Roaman. The more details, the better. Mr. Chen, I run a security company. Although I have my own contacts in intelligence, I can't guarantee anything. $10 million. I don't care how much you give to your network. I want an answer in 30 minutes. I want all the information about this rebel leader named Roaman. Alright, I'll find out all the information about this guy in 30 minutes. As soon as Graves hung up, he received a message from his bank. $10 million had been added to his account. Graves didn't know why Chen Zhao was looking for this rebel leader called Roaman. However, he could feel the coldness in Chen Zhao's tone. Half an hour later, Graves called Chen Zhao again. Mr. Chen, did you receive the message I sent you? Yes, I got it. Chen Zhao saw that the information was quite comprehensive and was quite satisfied. Mr. Chen, if you need, I can help you get rid of this guy. Of course, the price will be good. Thanks, but no need, Chen Zhao said indifferently. Graves was a bit disappointed. Chen Zhao had actually spent $10 million on intelligence. If he hired them, wouldn't it be even more? Unfortunately, Chen Zhao didn't choose them. If there was one place in the world that was wild, it would be Somalia. There was no other place in the world that was as wild and chaotic as Somalia. There were no rules here. No one was absolutely safe. Even the Middle East was like heaven compared to Somalia. Government troops, rebels, warlords, criminal organizations, pirates, mercenaries, and even killers formed a terrifying and chaotic zone here. Here, kids as young as 7 or 8 would attack people with weapons. Perhaps the 7 or 8-year-old child had killed more people than anyone else. At night, the gunshots wouldn't stop. Every now and then, there would be gunshots. After a while, it would fall silent again. This was the norm here. Chen Zhao arrived at Marca, Somalia. There were broken walls everywhere. The buildings were very old. After the war, they became even more dilapidated. Chen Zhao seemed to have entered a Chinese village in the 1970s. Marca used to be an important city in Somalia. It had a certain industrial base, but the civil war had destroyed everything here. There weren't even 100,000 people in Marca now. More than half of them were related to the rebels. There were fortresses and pillboxes everywhere. There were traces of war everywhere. While Chen Zhao was strolling around, 2 black men stopped him and interrogated him in Somali. Their muzzles were almost at Chen Zhao's head. Chen Zhao raised his arms, his expression fearless. He allowed the 2 of them to search his body. Do you speak English? Chen Zhao asked. These 2 black men were complete foot soldiers. How could they understand English? They didn't understand English, but they knew that Chen Zhao was speaking it. When they didn't find anything, they pushed Chen Zhao, cursing. They seemed to want to take Chen Zhao somewhere. Just then, a white man suddenly appeared. When he saw Chen Zhao, he was clearly stunned. Asian? Hey, hi. You speak English, right? Chen Zhao was surprised. Kral glanced at Chen Zhao. He thought that Chen Zhao saw him as his savior. Do you know where Risfar is now? Kral was about to leave. Hearing Chen Zhao's words, he suddenly stopped. Who are you? Kral stared at Chen Zhao. I was sent by Mr. Risfar's family to negotiate with Roaman, Chen Zhao said seriously. What do you want to talk about? Mr. Roaman already gave us his conditions, Kral said. Your only choice now is to accept our conditions. Chapter 1912. I need to at least confirm if Mr. Risfar is alive, Chen Zhao said. Otherwise, why would I give you the money? Kral thought for a moment. Then he spoke to the two men in Somali. Then he brought Qin Zhao to the dungeon. Outside the dungeon, Qin Zhao was searched again. They were clearly worried that Qin Zhao had some kind of tracking device on him. Of course, reality proved that they were worried for nothing. Qin Zhao didn't have anything on him. The man who searched Qin Zhao wanted to take his ring. However, he couldn't take it off even after trying for a long time. Kral and his men checked Qin Zhao's body with equipment again. Just then, Luo Aman arrived. Qin Zhao had seen Luo Aman's information, including his photo. He knew that the last man was Luo Aman.
Is this Asian here to pay the ransom?
Yes. Kral nodded.
What about the money?
He needs to confirm if Risfar is still alive.
Is he okay?
No, I checked him. There's nothing wrong with him.
Then hurry up.
Let him take a look at Risfar and then take the money. Then Qin Zhao was pushed into the dungeon. In the dim dungeon, Qin Zhao saw Risfar lying on the ground, covered in wounds.
Risfar.
Qin Zhao immediately went up to check his injuries. Risfar slowly opened his eyes. When he saw Qin Zhao, his face was filled with shock. Risfar propped himself up with difficulty.
Qin, why are you here?
To take you home?
What nonsense are you talking about? You shouldn't be here.
Don't worry.
Wait here. I'll go out and talk to them. I think they'll agree to my request.
Qin Zhao patted Risfar's shoulder.
Qin, those people can't communicate with words at all,
Risfar said worriedly.
Find a chance to leave.
Don't worry, Qin Zhao said with a smile.
I didn't plan on communicating with them in the first place.
Bang, bang. At this moment, the mercenary standing outside the door knocked on the metal door heavily.
Time's up. Come out now.
Qin Zhao gave Risfar a look and walked to the door. The moment the metal door closed, Risfar, who was in the dungeon, suddenly heard a scream from outside. After calming down, Risfar could tell that it wasn't Qin Zhao's voice. Moreover, he knew that Qin Zhao was very skilled. Did Qin Zhao want to kill their way out of here with just one person? But was that even possible? The people outside the passageway also heard the screams coming from inside. Kral's expression changed. The person he'd sent to follow Qin Zhao didn't come out. One of Qin Zhao's hands was stained with blood. He immediately raised his gun and pointed it at Qin Zhao. Bang bang, Clower fired without hesitation. Qin Zhao moved his body twice and Kral's 2 shots missed. Kral was stunned. Smiling, Qin Zhao took out a grenade and pulled the ring. Kral's expression changed drastically, and he immediately flew to the side of the aisle. Qin Zhao had already thrown the grenade out. Bang! Both Kral and Roaman ran out of the room and called for their men to rush in. Meanwhile, Risfar, who was in the dungeon, fell into a state of panic because intense gunshots and explosions could be heard everywhere outside. After Qin Zhao had left, the gunshots and explosions hadn't stopped. Kral and Roaman didn't know what to do. They realized that the Asian couldn't be killed at all. In the beginning, their men could still rush into the building. However, after they entered the building, all they heard were miserable screams. Then, they never came out again. Eventually, no one was willing to go in anymore. Just because they didn't go in didn't mean that the person wouldn't come out. Then, miserable screams rang out beside them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, 100.
Kral, hurry up and think of something. Aren't you an elite mercenary?
Roaman yelled at Kral, somewhat terrified. Kral wanted to solve the problem, but he didn't know how. His men weren't good at direct conflict. He was best at planning behind the scenes. For example, this time, it was through a series of traps that he managed to kidnap a billionaire. Now, he was facing a terrifying murderer. He'd completely lost his sense of propriety and thought. No matter how many people came, they couldn't kill the man. Seeing that Kral didn't know what to do, Roaman could only keep calling for his army. Just then, a tank entered the battlefield. Boom! The tank fired into the darkness. However, the tank's shell didn't hurt him. Instead, it helped Qin Zhao get rid of the minions around him. Qin Zhao went over and dismantled the tank. Soon, Crawl and Roaman realized that they couldn't understand the situation on the battlefield. Many times, the situation on the battlefield was beyond what humans should be capable of. For example, the tank had been cut open for no reason. Gradually, they vaguely realized maybe it wasn't humans who were fighting them. To be honest, killing was the most boring thing. Qin Zhao couldn't understand people who were addicted to killing. At least, the process wasn't interesting. The rebels weren't actually all bad people. Most of the time, they were forced to join the rebels and participate in this immoral war. More and more rebels chose to escape. Of course, Qin Zhao wouldn't let the main culprit escape. After half an hour of madness, the entire marca fell into silence. Roaman and Crawl were curled up in a low bungalow. They thought that they could escape the butcher this way. But the moment the door was pushed open, they fell into despair. They had guns to kill. Their guns were all aimed at the man at the door. Qin Zhao stood at the door. "Do you think that thing in your hands is really trying to kill me?" At that moment, Roaman opened fire. But Qin Zhao reached out and pinched the bullet. This action made them completely lose the will to fight. They finally realized that the person before them really wasn't human. At least, humans couldn't catch bullets. Seeing them put down their guns, Qin Zhao finally smiled. "Good. It seems like you finally understand your situation. How much money did Risvar give you?" "I can give you double, no, triple." No. You can work with us. We can extort more money from him," Roaman said excitedly. Chapter 1913. Just then, Qin Zhao suddenly heard strange cries from the forest. Unusual lights seemed to appear in the forest. They were like the eyes of a pack of beasts, but there weren't many beasts that moved in groups in the forests of Africa. Mountain gorillas were one, and there were also mountain wolves. But mountain gorillas would never approach human settlements. Mountain gorillas might look big and burly. In reality, they were all very timid and smart. They knew the dangers of humans. As for the wolf pack, it was even more unlikely for them to get close to human settlements. Because wolves decided their range and number of packs based on the amount of food they had. The closer they were to human settlements, the less food there was. Perhaps 1 or 2 mountain wolves would occasionally approach a human village. But it was impossible for the entire pack to approach. Moreover, there weren't just a dozen pairs of eyes in the forest, but hundreds. The owner of those eyes let out a low and hoarse voice. Luo Aman suddenly shivered. He seemed to know what it was. "Spirit beast! Spirit beast! It's a spirit beast!" Luo Aman cried out in terror. Just then, a long howl came from the forest. The howl was loud and clear, echoing in the forest. At that moment, the few rebel soldiers who had escaped earlier ran back in panic. They weren't afraid of Qin Zhao anymore. They passed by Qin Zhao, shouting as they ran. Qin Zhao didn't care about them. Instead, he kept looking forward. Just then, a rebel in front of Qin Zhao was suddenly pounced on by something. At first, Qin Zhao didn't see anything. But with a flash of light, a translucent beast more than 3 meters long appeared on the rebel's body. It wasn't a wolf, lion, or leopard. But it was very big and ferocious. It tore at the rebel who'd been pounced on. In just 2 or 3 moves, the rebel soldier had been bitten into a bloody mess. "Run! Run! That's a spirit beast!" Luo Aman cried out in terror. Large numbers of spirit beasts charged down from the forest. Very soon, the entire marca was affected. Oh no! Qin Zhao suddenly realized that Risvar was still in the dungeon. If such a monster charged into the dungeon, Risvar would definitely die. Qin Zhao didn't care about Luo Aman and Clower anymore. He turned and charged toward the dungeon. Bang! Suddenly, the iron door of the dungeon let out a heavy banging sound. Risvar was shocked. Was Qin Zhao outside? Risvar was hesitant. After Qin Zhao left, the metal door wasn't completely closed. However, Risvar still locked the door from the inside. Risvar looked through the hole in the iron door. It was pitch black outside, and nothing could be seen. Risfar looked down at the bolt. He hesitated whether or not to open the door. Chun, is that you? There was no response from outside. Risfar gulped and hesitantly reached out to pull the latch. At this moment, a sharp scratching sound came from the iron gate. Risfar then saw the claw marks of some creature on the iron door. The iron door was scratched into a horrifying mark. Risfar was so frightened that he quickly retreated. There seemed to be something looking in through the scratches on the iron door. Bang! The iron door was sent flying. Risfar lowered his head in fear. The metal door slid past Risfar's scalp and stabbed into the wall behind him. Then Risfar felt something pounce on him. He clearly didn't see anything, but his body felt like it had been hit by a car. Then he saw a huge creature on top of him. The creature's body appeared slowly. Risfar didn't know what it was, but he knew that it was definitely a carnivore. Now, he was probably on the carnivore's menu. And now, he was likely to be on the menu of this carnivore. Then he saw the carnivore being pulled away from him. Qin Zhao pulled the spirit beast out of Risfar's body. Then it smashed heavily into the wall. The spirit beast smashed into the wall and immediately turned into a glowing cloud of dust. Then it gathered again and returned to its beast form. Chen! Risfar felt as if he had just stepped through the gates of hell. Risfar panted heavily. He was frightened, really frightened. He had never experienced something so terrifying. The spirit beast pounced at Risfar again. It seemed that it also bullied the weak and feared the strong. It knew that Qin Zhao wasn't easy to deal with. But Qin Zhao lifted his leg and swept it horizontally. The spirit beast was sent flying. However, it once again turned into dust and returned to its original state. Qin Zhao grinned. Risfar grabbed the corner of Qin Zhao's shirt. Chen, can you handle it? When the spirit beast pounced at him again, Qin Zhao added force to his fist. Bang! Qin Zhao pierced through the spirit beast's body. This time, it didn't turn into dust. Its body gradually returned to its original state. At the same time, the place Qin Zhao had pierced started bleeding. Qin Zhao twisted his neck and looked back at Risfar. Let's go. Risfar gulped. Will it be okay outside? You'll be fine as long as you don't run away. When Risfar followed Qin Zhao out, he saw that the outside had become a hell of flesh and blood. Broken limbs were everywhere. Some were done by Qin Zhao, but most were done by the spirit beasts. These spirit beasts were like a sumptuous dinner. Qin Zhao and Risfar saw Luo Aman. A spirit beast had pounced on him. The spirit beast didn't kill him directly. Instead, it was gnawing on his arm. Roaman was howling. Save me! Save me! Mr. Risfar! Save me! Qin Zhao looked back at Risfar. How was it? Did you vent your anger? Risfar's body was a bit stiff. He didn't care about Roman's life or death. But there were so many spirit beasts around. He wasn't sure if Qin Zhao could handle it. Chen, are you sure you can handle it? Risfar asked uncertainly. If you can't, you can leave first. I'll hide in that dungeon. I crossed the North Atlantic to save you. Do you think I'll give up on you now? You crossed the North Atlantic? How did you do it? Are you touched? Qin Zhao grinned. I'm not in the mood to joke with you. Okay, I won't joke anymore. Let's deal with these problems first. Qin Zhao stretched his arms and legs. I warmed up just now. We can officially start now. To Qin Zhao, the battle with the rebels was just a warm-up. These spirit beasts were the real battle. Chapter 1914. Careful! Suddenly a spirit beast attacked from behind. Qin Zhao suddenly disappeared from Risfar's sight. The next moment, he kicked the spirit beast's soul away. Do you have a cigarette? Qin Zhao felt that he should light one and take a long drag. Risfar glanced at Qin Zhao. There are still many things around. It's not the time to relax yet. It's not a big problem. The spirit beasts all stopped eating and turned to look at Qin Zhao. The intelligence of these spirit beasts wasn't low. They could even understand the human language. Qin Zhao's arrogant and disdainful attitude had clearly angered them. All the spirit beasts attacked Qin Zhao at the same time. Qin Zhao casually smashed a spirit beast. Then he kicked another one to death. In the blink of an eye, he killed two. Apart from invisibility and turning into dust, these spirit beasts didn't have any special abilities. They were also very poor at attacking. They could only use physical attacks. Each individual's combat power could barely compare to an adult lion. But this level of power wasn't enough to defeat Qin Zhao. It couldn't even be considered a threat. Risfar suddenly realized that he didn't know Qin Zhao at all. If it weren't for this crisis, Qin Zhao would probably never have revealed his true abilities before him. He watched as Qin Zhao continuously slaughtered the spirit beasts before him. Risfar had a strange feeling. And a bit of anger. Qin Zhao actually hid so many secrets from him. Soon, more than 10 spirit beasts were killed. Although it was only 1%, the other spirit beasts seemed to have discovered Qin Zhao's combat power. Just then, a loud howl came from the back of the spirit beast horde. The other spirit beasts started retreating one after another. They retreated just like that? Qin Zhao had originally planned to fight for a long time. He didn't think that they'd retreat after killing only a dozen spirit beasts. Qin Zhao was quite disappointed. After all, he hadn't completed the battle he wanted. But this wasn't a bad thing. After all, Risfar was beside him. In such a chaotic situation, it was difficult for Qin Zhao to protect Risfar and fight at the same time. Their retreat wasn't a bad thing for Risfar. However, the spirit beasts had also taken away many corpses. They'd attacked Marca and killed at least 1,000 rebels. Was this the spiritual world of the African continent? It was completely different from the spiritual world in Europe, Asia, and North America. The African continent was not only human society, but it was also in a semi-barbaric era. Even the spirit world was still in a primitive age. There were actually so many magical beasts here. This spirit beast was definitely a type of magical beast. Although Roa Man called them spirit beasts. However, they were living creatures, not ghosts or hell creatures. However, in this continent where human society was not developed, there was still a lot of natural scenery. That was why there were so many natural magical beasts. Moreover, these spirit beasts didn't appear out of nowhere. They must have resided in this forest for a long time. That was why the locals were so familiar with them. The battle between Qin Zhao and the rebels was probably the trigger that triggered their appearance. Risfar felt like he was on a roller coaster. Qin Zhao appeared, disappeared, and reappeared again. He saw the spirit beast horde again. In the end, the spirit beast horde retreated. Risfar had never experienced such ups and downs. As the spirit beasts retreated, Risfar finally felt the joy of surviving a calamity. Qin, what should we do now? Go to the beach. I contacted a group of pirates. Pirates? Risfar shuddered. You know pirates? They're a bunch of immoral bastards. Okay, I'm different from you. The pirates I know are different from the pirates you know too. Don't compare us. What's the difference? At least I won't be kidnapped. I'm a victim. Can you give me some warmth? Laura borrowed money from me earlier, and I transferred $600 million to her. Transfer it back to me later. Fuck you. Risfar gradually calmed down. He was even more grateful to Qin Zhao. When he was in the most danger, Qin Zhao had come all the way here. Then, he'd come to save him despite the danger. Before leaving, Qin Zhao had contacted Guret. When they arrived at the beach, Guret's people were already waiting there. Chen, are you sure they won't treat me as a hostage again? They wouldn't dare, Qin Zhao said. Oh, call Laura first. Qin Zhao handed a satellite phone to Risfar. But don't tell them what just happened. Risfar nodded. He respected Qin Zhao's request. Since Qin Zhao wasn't willing, he'd let him. Hey Laura, it's me, Risfar said. I'm fine. Chen's friend saved me. Johnny, is that you? Is it really you? Laura's face was filled with disbelief. She asked Risfar over the phone. Johnny, how did you get saved? Don't ask about the details. Anyway, I should thank Chen the most. If not for him, I'd probably have died here. Risfar was truly grateful. Laura realized that Chen Zhao had gone out for a few hours. There was no reply. She didn't expect that it would only be a few hours. Chen Zhao had actually saved Risfar. Risfar and Laura chatted for a long time before hanging up reluctantly. Oh, Johnny, do you know where your ship is now? Risfar looked at Chen Zhao and then at the people on the pirate ship. Can your friends help? I only asked them to send you back. They don't care about anything else. Then what do we do? Did you forget me? It's just a ship. I don't want you to take the risk. It's not a risk for me. All right, the location should be 300 kilometers southeast of Mogadishu. Got it. Chen Zhao nodded and dove into the water. Laura, don't worry. Johnny's safe. I'm still worried that he's not back yet. Then let's go get him. Get him? Laura looked at Feilai confused. Drive our ship out to sea, Feilai said. Are you sure? Of course. Will that work? Why not? Feilai said matter-of-factly. All right then. Laura was also very anxious at this moment. After all, Risfar had just been kidnapped, even though he just reported that he was safe. As long as she didn't see him, Laura couldn't be at ease. Chapter 19:15. In the latter half of the night, Chen Zhao suddenly emerged from the water and climbed onto the boat. When Risfar saw Chen Zhao emerge from the sea, he was shocked. Chen, where did you go? I helped you deal with the hijacked ship, Chen Zhao said. Stop joking. This place is at least 1,000 kilometers away from the hijacked ship. You can't swim that far. Even if you can, you don't have that much time. It'll only take you an hour to go back and forth. So you don't know me well enough. Know me? Risfar suddenly remembered that Chen Zhao's appearance here didn't make sense. Logically speaking, he hadn't been kidnapped for more than 8 hours. It would take 15 hours to get from America to Somalia. Crossing the North Atlantic Ocean, then the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea was almost half the distance of the world. Then, he would have to drive from Somalia's capital, Mogadishu, to Malka. It would take more than 10 hours. It could be said that it would take at least a day and a half to reach Malka if there were no accidents along the way. But Chen Zhao appeared in Malka that night. This wasn't normal. Moreover, Chen Zhao had charged in alone. Especially in the end, when Chen Zhao had fought against the spirits. Chen Zhao's various abilities in battle all proved that he wasn't a normal person. Risfar suddenly remembered. After their hotel had opened, Del had been acting strangely. He would occasionally do something strange. For example, he hung a Chinese 8 trigrams mirror in his office. He even had to get a strange potted plant in Risfar's office. He said it was a Chinese custom to attract wealth and treasures. Did Del know already? Risfar asked. No, he didn't just know. We're the same kind of people, Chen Zhao said. What? You're saying Del is as powerful as you? Of course, he can't cross half the world in a short time. Chen Zhao shrugged. People like us are spiritualists. Del is one of us. I'm very angry now, even angrier than when I was kidnapped. I'm actually the last person to know about this, Risfar said angrily. If this didn't happen, how long were you planning to hide it from me? Forever. I won't forgive you, and Del. Risfar was even angrier. Unless you teach me too. I can't teach you, but Del has a master. You can try your luck with her, Chen Zhao said, smiling. Of course, I can't promise you that you have the talent. Del, and you can do it. I'm sure I can too. Risfar looked at him. Are all spiritualists the same? It's different. Every spiritualist has different attributes and magic. What's your magic? My magic system is rather complicated. Anyway, I'm developing in the direction of Superman in the movies, strength. I thought it was swimming. Risfar was very curious about this strange supernatural world. He kept asking for all sorts of information about the spirit world. Risfar asked again. Did you swim across a distance of more than 10,000 kilometers? Just then, Qin Zhao's feet left the deck. Fly. Fly? Risfar's eyes widened as he held Qin Zhao's feet. You can fly? Qin Zhao nodded. I will. Then why don't you fly me back? Of course, unless you want to be crushed to death by the high-pressure airflow. Qin Zhao could bring Didi around the world, but it didn't mean that he could bring Risfar. Didi was a spiritualist herself. She also put on all sorts of equipment before leaving. With Qin Zhao's protection, she could passively resist the high-pressure airflow. But Risfar was different. He was just a normal person. Qin Zhao could either fly slowly with Risfar or let him die in the air. This ship is too slow. When we go around Africa and reach the Atlantic Ocean, I'll have Amon send you, Qin Zhao said. Amon? You didn't forget Amon, right? Of course I remember Amon. Oh, Amon isn't a normal killer whale, right? If you see Amon now, you'll definitely be shocked. It's not like I haven't seen Amon before, Risfar said in disdain. At most, he's a bit bigger. He felt that his willpower had been thoroughly tempered. No matter what happened, he wouldn't be affected. After a 48-hour journey, the pirate ship released Qin Zhao and Risfar into the sea. The pirates on the ship were confused too. After all, they weren't familiar with Qin Zhao. But Qin Zhao got off the ship in the vast ocean. This place was thousands of kilometers away from the nearest land. They really didn't understand why Qin Zhao and Risfar would get off here. Risfar and Qin Zhao were soaking in the water. Are you sure Amon is nearby? Risfar asked worriedly. Yes, he's here. As soon as Qin Zhao said that, Risfar suddenly realized that a huge shadow was looming over from the sea. Then, he felt like he was stepping on something. Gradually, Risfar realized that he could stand up. He felt like he was stepping on land. Moreover, this piece of land was still floating up. Amon? Risfar was shocked. Soon, Amon floated to the surface with Qin Zhao and Risfar on his back. Although Amon was not completely exposed to sleep, but Risfar still saw Amon's huge and illogical form. Is this Amon? Risfar was dumbfounded. Amon was really too big. He was more than 100 meters long, and had many bone spikes on his body. He also had a pair of huge wings. From his form, one could still tell that Amon was originally a killer whale. But Risfar still couldn't calm down. Too big. Amon was really too big. He was unbelievably big. See? I told you that you'd find it unbelievable. Is this really Amon? What kind is he? Qin Zhao wouldn't tell Risfar about Amon's true identity. Risfar kept patting Amon's back, trying to talk to him. Amon was really fast. Qin Zhao was also controlling the water to speed up. This greatly shortened their journey time. Amon's appearance made Risfar even more curious about everything in the spiritual world. Until the Hydra appeared in their field of vision. Chapter 1916. 3 days. Risfar had been on the sea for almost 3 days. When he boarded the Hydra, he hugged Lola excitedly. Lola had too many questions to ask Risfar. Of course, right now, she only wanted slap. Lola gave Risfar a hard slap on the face. She was angry that Risfar had gone to Somalia despite the danger. On the other hand, Qin Zhao looked at Risfar gloatingly. Risfar was helpless. What could he say? Qin, how come you're with Risfar too? I got lost on the sea. Qin Zhao grinned at Risfar. Risfar rolled his eyes. Lola glanced at Qin Zhao and didn't continue asking. She felt that she could ask Risfar later. All the children were here. This time, Lola was here to welcome Risfar. But to the children, this was a chance to go on a vacation. The children didn't know what had happened to Risfar. Of course, the adults wouldn't tell them what had happened to Risfar. Other than the beating, Risfar didn't have any other side effects. Risfar had wanted Qin Zhao to help treat him. But Lola stopped Qin Zhao. She wanted Risfar to endure the pain for a few more days. That way, she would remember this lesson. Qin Zhao and Fei Lai just watched the show. After picking up Risfar, the the Hydra toured the sea for another 2 days. If Risfar and Lola didn't have to go back to clean up the mess, they probably wouldn't have left. Both of them were busy people. They might not even have a few days of vacation in a year. If not for this accident, they probably wouldn't even have time to rest. When they returned to Mingwe Villa, Risfar and Lola hurriedly said goodbye. But they still left the children at Mingwe Villa. Bang! Del, you asterisk shoal. Del put down the phone and looked at Risfar in shock. Fuck, Lola said something happened to you. I've been trying to see if I can save you. Why did you come back yourself? And why are you scolding me as soon as you come back? Did I offend you? Chen saved me. Risfar stared at Chen Zhao angrily. Are you blaming me for not helping? Del looked at Risfar, confused. No, I'm angry that you and Chen hid it from me. You're both spiritualists, but I'm the last to know. Ah? Do you understand? Chen said you have a master. Introduce him to me and I'll forgive you. You've seen it too. When have I seen him before? Last time, when my master carried Faith, you blamed me for letting a stranger carry Faith. That woman is your master? Of course, Chen introduced it to me. Then quickly introduce him to me. I can introduce him to you, but I can't guarantee that master will accept you as his student. If that lady can accept you as her disciple, then I have no problem with it. That's not necessarily the case. The only reason I was able to gain master's favor was because of Faith's talent. I'm still basking in Faith's light, which proves that our family's bloodline is excellent. Risfar rolled his eyes. Faith isn't your biological daughter. It doesn't matter if she's my biological daughter or not. Faith is my daughter, so she's part of my family. A while later, Li Qing arrived at the hotel. Master, this is Risfar. You've met him, right? Hello, Mr. Risfar. No. After all, Risfar was asking for help, so he didn't dare to be disrespectful. Master, Johnny wants to be your disciple too. Li Qing looked at Risfar in surprise. Mr. Risfar, you know about the spiritual world? I just found out not long ago. Li Qing glanced at Del. You told him? No. Chen told him. I see. Li Qing looked at Risfar. Mr. Risfar, if Del's talent is bad, then you have no talent at all. So, you can't learn any of our spells. I can't learn any? Yes. Master, is there no other way? Yes. Some secret spells can let people who can't learn magic have magic power, but they have to pay a huge price. Does it cost money? Risfar asked. No, there aren't any spells that directly require money. However, those that can be called secret spells often require the sacrifice of some lives, or even one's own family. Risfar was shocked. Then I'd better not learn it. That's a wise choice. Li Qing nodded. Serengeti, the starting point of humans. According to archaeologists, the savanna of Serengeti was the origin of modern humans. Whether it was Asians or Europeans, they all came from here. Now, the supernatural organization had settled down in a temporary base in the savannah. This temporary foothold was established by the African Paranormal Alliance. It was specially for spiritualists who came here. However, the conditions of this base were somewhat poor. It only provided water and electricity every day. There were also some stalls on the streets. Other than providing some small businesses for the natives, it also provided spiritualists. Some spiritualists even started businesses here, selling magic tools or magic materials. Sorry, sir. Please don't throw trash randomly. This is a protected area. When an elite was walking on the street, he casually threw a cigarette butt, and a woman grabbed his arm. Everyone subconsciously took a few steps back and looked at an elite in disgust. Angelite's face twitched. Sorry. As he spoke, an elite picked up the cigarette butt. Where are you from? North America. An elite answered. Us too, but we don't know him very well. West cut off his relationship with an elite. Gritting his teeth, an elite stared at West and the others. North America? The woman's eyes were already filled with disdain. Go and register your information. It's at the registration counter over there. Register? Why do we have to register? Recently, the spiritualists who come here often go missing or get killed. Hence, in order to ensure the safety of every spiritualist who comes to help, as well as to have a clearer understanding of every spiritualist's actions, every spiritualist who comes here now has to register. Have there been battles here all this time? There have been 2 large-scale battles, the woman said. The last one was the most intense. At least 20 spiritualists died. Miss, you are? Jiutian Shen Wang. Chapter 1917. When the woman heard West's question, her eyes clearly drifted. With a condescending look, she said, Northern Europe, the Holy Council. West had heard of the Holy Council in Northern Europe. The Holy Council wasn't a top-tier supernatural organization, but it had a certain reputation. It was like the soccer players in England and Spain. Even in second-tier leagues, they felt that their standards were higher than in China. Of course, that was the truth. They were indeed very skilled. That was undeniable. The North American supernatural world was basically the same. Even the second-tier or even third-tier organizations or sects in Europe and Asia, their standards were still higher than North America's supernatural world. The Holy Council's reputation wasn't because of their glorious deeds. It was because they were mortal enemies of the Scarlet Church. Of course, the current supernatural world wasn't like the past, where one side would fight to the death. Most of the time, mortal enemies wouldn't kill each other for no reason. Most of the time, they competed over certain things, which were battles of words. For example, if there was a competition in the supernatural world, the 2 sides might not perform the best. But once they met, they would go all out in the arena. Or if one side did something, the other side had to do it. Of course, in the past 100 years, the Scarlet Church had produced a 23rd generation Blood Mary. That was why the Scarlet Church had always suppressed the Holy Council. When Sivert looked at West and the others, she did look down on them. How barren was North America's supernatural world! Most of the time, 1 or 2 evil spirits could cause a ruckus. Because no one was there to deal with it. If they were in other areas, if an evil spirit dared to cause trouble, they would definitely be dealt with properly. I'll take you there, Sivert said. In this temporary settlement, half of the people were spiritualists. The other half had interacted with spiritualists before. So here, everyone was familiar with the supernatural world and magic. The registration process was simple. Basically, everyone just had to state their identity and the organization they belonged to. But West felt that the registrants seemed to be on guard against something. West led the group out of the simple registration office. Sivert was still by his side. You better not wander around at night. Why? It's not absolutely safe here. Are you saying that other people will harm us? West asked. Do you know why we are gathered here? Protect Poison Dragon, the guardian of the grassland, West said. That's right. The ones who attacked the poisonous dragon were not only unclean creatures, but also a group of unclean humans. They worship evil gods. They think that as long as they kill the poisonous dragon, they can destroy the balance of nature, Sivert said. So, not only do we have to fight against the unclean creatures, but we also have to fight against our own kind hidden among us. Sylvie paused for a moment before continuing. In the past, most of the missing people were attacked by humans. So this registration is also to distinguish between friend and foe? Sivert nodded. Yes. Then are we under suspicion? Your passports have minimized your suspicions, Sivert said. Looks like we're in luck, West said with a smile. I live in a small house to the north of the settlement. If you have any trouble, you can come to me, Sivert replied calmly. Sivert turned around and left. Come on, let's go to our place. Mr. West, where are we staying? By the river, West said. There are some houses there. I paid some money just now, so the person in charge arranged a nice house for us. When they found a place to stay, they found that it was indeed nice. Other than the crocodiles in the river, there were no obvious flaws. As for the crocodiles' activities, it was not a problem for them. Although the houses here were all made of wood, the style was not bad. They also had some electrical equipment. They did not have to live like primitive people. Wes said he paid some money, but it was not a small amount. At least the money was enough to build these wooden houses. Otherwise, they would not have been assigned such a nice house. The houses by the river were in a row. 80% of them were occupied by the supernatural organization. After a few days of traveling, they could finally rest. However, before they could pack their luggage, they heard a noise outside. "Come out! I want to see who dares to live in a place I like." Curses came from outside. The voice was very arrogant. Everyone in the supernatural organization heard it. One by one, they came out of their rooms. When they came out, they immediately saw an old acquaintance. When this old acquaintance saw the people from the supernatural organization, he felt as if his throat was choked by a hand. His voice was stuck in his throat. This person was none other than the person they had met in the Norwegian forest during their last mission. He was the person in charge of the Holy Flame sect in Norway, Magori Modric. Magori Modric opened his mouth. His face was filled with stiffness and awkwardness. He never would have thought that he would meet someone from the supernatural organization in the Serengeti Plains that was tens of thousands of miles away. He had escaped death last time. He did not expect to meet people from the supernatural organization again this time. "Mr. Magori, what a coincidence. We meet again." Wes stood in front of the door and squinted at Magori Modric. Jalanash walked over too. A ball of fire gathered in her palm. "Mr. Magori, I've mastered the little sun I got from you last time. I can ask you for some pointers." "That misunderstanding, it's really a misunderstanding," Magori Modric hurriedly said. What a joke. If they fought with these people, they would not even know how they died. Last time, he and his men had already suffered. This time, he did not bring as many people as last time. Mainly because they had suffered heavy losses last time. They still did not have enough people. If there was another conflict, even if all his men died, they would not be able to defeat the supernatural organization. Also, in the supernatural organization, the person who had left the deepest impression on Magori was Helios. This guy had killed that lunatic rib brick. Magori felt that even if Helios was alone, they would not be able to deal with him. At this moment, he groaned inwardly. He wanted to turn around and leave. Chapter 1918. Haha. Mr. West, long time no see. Modric laughed loudly to hide his awkwardness. "I'm joking with you. I heard that you live here, so I came to catch up with you." West looked at Modric with his hands behind his back. He still had a meaningful smile on his face. "Mr. Magri, I heard that there are some evil cultists here. Could it be you?" West stared coldly at Magri Modric. "Don't joke around. Although our Holy Flame sect's teachings are incompatible with the general public, we are very different from the real evil cultists." Holy Flame sect was now an evil sect, but evil sect and evil cult were two different concepts. Evil sects were the kind where I know I'm a bad person and do bad things. Evil cultists turn twisted logic into truth. I'm a good person. You have to believe in me and my teachings. Like Holy Flame sect, if they were willing, they could even carry out 1 or 2 internal reforms to correct some behaviors that were not tolerated by the secular world and the government. Then, they could become an ordinary organization. The government and the spiritual world wouldn't be so ruthless. Many sects were even examples of turning over a new leaf. But evil cultists couldn't. Their teachings had already determined their identity. Whether it was the government or the people of the spiritual world, there was only one way to deal with evil cultists and evil cultists. Destroy. Destroy from the body to the soul. Modric didn't want to be treated as an evil cultist. Especially in this place, where there were people from the spirit world all around. He and his subordinates combined wouldn't be able to do anything here. Of course, Magri Modric had also registered his presence here. Although they were still a little suspicious in the eyes of the person in charge here. But since he could appear so brazenly, it meant that he wasn't afraid of the shadows.
You're also here for the protection mission?
West was curious. Magri Modric was actually participating in this mission.
There are benefits. Benefits? Are you talking about the reward for the Scarlet mission? Although the reward for the Scarlet mission is great, it's too difficult to get the reward in front of hundreds of spiritualists.
Modric shook his head.
I'm interested in the gift from the Nature Guardian. Are you talking about Poison Dragon? Can he give a reward? As a Nature Guardian, Poison Dragon has a special power that can bestow some special powers to others. What special power? Not necessarily.
Magri Modric shook his head.
There are very few people who can obtain this power, and there are certain restrictions. The only thing that is certain is that only those with outstanding performance can obtain this gift.
Just then, Sivir walked over. She had heard that people from the Sacred Flame sect were nearby, so she had come over to take a look. If the people from the Sacred Flame sect were to cause trouble, she would be able to stop them in time. Due to the Sacred Flame sect's misdeeds in the past, they were the main suspects after arriving here, even though it was unlikely that they were cultists. However, he was still being monitored in secret. Furthermore, the Sacred Flame sect had always been domineering. Sivir felt that if the people of the Sacred Flame sect had a conflict with these people from the North American spiritual world, the Americans would definitely be at a disadvantage. But when she arrived, she found that there was no conflict between them. They seemed to be getting along very well. At the very least, the person in charge of the Sacred Flame sect's team had a pleasant chat with West.
Mr. West, do you need any help?
Sivir asked.
No, I didn't.
West shook his head.
If you need help, as long as you're in the settlement, you don't have to worry about anything. I promise you that no one will create chaos in front of me. Thank you for your kindness, but we really don't need it.
All right then. Seeing that West had no intention of asking her for help, Sivir gave up on being the supernatural organization's protector. West realized that Sivir wasn't very strong. But Magri Modric was very wary of Sivir. Also, Sivir seemed a little nosy. She shouldn't be a staff member here, right?
Mr. Muggery, do you know this woman? She is a member of the Holy Council. The Holy Council? It's just a second-rate force. You didn't look so relaxed when you were facing her.
West went straight to Magri Modric's sore spot.
She's the person chosen by the Nature's Guardian. She can borrow the Guardian's power here and in the surrounding areas. In other words, as long as she doesn't squander her magic power, she can borrow the Guardian's power infinitely. Even if the person she borrows power from is very strong, it will hurt herself if she borrows power that doesn't belong to her too many times. So, she can't borrow other people's power infinitely.
That's true, but even if she's not really invincible, she still represents the Nature's Guardian. As for a spiritualist trying to attack another spiritualist, the Nature's Guardian appeared.
Thank you for your answer, Mr. Muggery.
You're welcome.
We're friends, aren't we?
Modric secretly heaved a sigh of relief. After all, the previous battle had left a deep impression on him. This time, they were competitors too. But Modric still hoped to maintain a good relationship with Qin Zhao. That way, if there was a battle or danger, the people from the supernatural organization might be willing to help them out. Also, the Holy Fire sect wasn't very popular in the residential area. If they were in trouble, others might not take advantage of them, but they would definitely gloat and watch the show. The Sacred Flame sect was in need of a strong and powerful ally here. At the same time, they didn't have anyone that they hated deeply. The supernatural organization had both of these conditions. That was why Modric was willing to tell West and the others about the information he had.
I heard that there are some cultists in this residential area, West said. Do you know who they are? I'm not sure of who it is exactly. However, when we first arrived here yesterday, someone hinted that he hoped that our Sacred Flame sect could cooperate with them. The other party's words sounded like he was trying to bewitch me.
Chapter 1919. Sivir returned to the temporary headquarters.
Sivir, why are you back so early today?
I didn't have anything to do, so I came back. Sivers sat on the wooden floor. Her roommate, Irene Horton, was the same as her. They were both guardians and managers of order here. Their identities weren't decided by any organization or person. They were given by the Nature Guardian, Poison Dragon. They could also borrow the power of Nature Guardians. In this gathering area, there were a total of 6 Order Guardians and 1 manager. They were in charge of maintaining order here and planning every operation and battle. There are more and more spiritualists in the gathering area. Many cultists have snuck in too. The Guardians give us power, but they don't give us the ability to identify cultists. Siver rubbed her hair. So troublesome. Why did I accept this mission? I didn't see you hesitate when you accepted the Guardian's gift, Irene Horton said calmly. You didn't reject the power for free either. Of course, it was impossible for them to get it for free. They had to give as well. Is this where the group of suspicious people you mentioned lives? The people from the supernatural organization came to a house under Modrich's lead. Yes, Modrich said. But I can't guarantee that they're cultists. Wes glanced at them. Who wants to go? I'll do it, Engelit said, stepping forward. They were only suspicious now, so they couldn't all attack. If they got the wrong person, they'd all be chased out later. So, if they wanted to attack, one person was the best choice. Even if they were chased out, they'd be chased out alone. Plus, Engelit was the most convenient. After all, he was the fastest. As for how to tell if they were cultists, there wasn't an accurate answer. They could only rely on experience. Engelit nodded at everyone. The next moment, Engelit disappeared before everyone's eyes. Modric was shocked. What a fast speed. If he were to fight Engelit, he would be able to break through his defense in the shortest time possible. Wasn't North America a magic desert? How did this unknown organization have such great power? Furthermore, it wasn't just 1 or 2 of them who were powerful, but all of them. Not everyone was willing to provoke the cultists. Evil cultists were evil cultists. It was because of their anti-human way of thinking. He was ruthless to himself, and even more ruthless to others. In an instant, Engelit had already entered a room. There was no one in the room. However, Engelit started rummaging through their luggage. Soon enough, Engelit found a badge in his luggage. This emblem was carved with 3 ferocious dragon heads. Engelit looked at the badge. 3-headed dragon. What sect is it? Church of Truth. Just then, someone entered the room. Engelit narrowed his eyes at the newcomer. The Church of Universal Truth, huh? This is the first time I've met someone who's so cooperative. Truth was what the Church of Truth pursued. But their truth is very different from that of the general public. Their truth is sociopathic. One of the top 10 evil cults in the world. The cultist exuded a dangerous aura and looked at Engelit with a sinister gaze. Engelite's pupils suddenly dilated. The next moment, Engelit suddenly dodged. A sharp blade slashed through the place where Engelit had been standing without any warning. Spatial magic. Engelit frowned. He was a spiritualist who specialized in speed, and theoretically, spatial magic was higher than speed. Of course, Engelit wouldn't be scared even if he faced a spatial opponent. Even if it was superior magic, in the end, it still required actual combat experience and personal magic power cultivation to rely on. The cultist waved his arm. Engelit suddenly sensed danger in front of him. Although there was nothing in front of Engelit, he knew that he would be in danger if he took one more step. Spatial magic wasn't just rare, it was also very dangerous and troublesome. Although necromancy was dangerous and strange, most necromancy magic was visible. But spatial magic was mostly invisible. When fighting against spatial enemies, one had to rely on one's senses. There are spatial traps all around you. You'll die if you move again. The cultist stared at Engelit coldly. Engelit raised his hands decisively. I surrender. The cultist sneered. He didn't believe that Engelit would surrender so easily. A lot of sharp blades suddenly shot out from the spatial traps around Engelit. Engelit was prepared as well. In an instant, Angelite's arms danced in the air. All the sharp blades were caught between his fingers. The next moment, Angelite waved his arms. The blades flew back into the spatial traps. Also, when Angelite returned the blades, he had filled them with magic power. These spaces themselves were constructed from magic power. Once abnormal magic power appeared, it would directly cause space to become unstable and collapse. Angelite broke free in an instant. The cultist felt a pain in his neck. Angelite had already grabbed him by the neck. Just then, the cultist pressed the alarm. All the cultists who lived nearby swarmed over. You can't escape. The cultist stared at Angelite. You're fighting against the world's consciousness, so you're bound to lose. Angelite smiled casually. You don't represent the world's consciousness. By then, more cultists had charged into the building. Angelite sped up again. His figure was beyond the limits of what the naked eye could see. Angelite left a trail of flames behind as he charged. All the cultists in his path collapsed. Angelite was too fast. He didn't give the cultists any time to cast their spells. The first cultist had always been in Angelite's grasp. The pressure he endured had also exceeded the limits of human endurance. When Angelite stopped again, the cultist in his hand was on the verge of death. See? You lost. Angelite had a faint smile on his face. The cultist looked up at Angelite. Are you sure we lost? Angelite had the cultist firmly in his control. He didn't have a chance to attack. Then show me how you resist. One day you'll understand. The viruses of your world don't understand. Everything is arranged by fate. Even everything you're doing now is part of the plan. Chapter 1920. The battle here had already alarmed more than half of the gathering area. Many people came to watch. But no one interfered. Sivir and Irene Horton pushed through the crowd. When Sivir saw Angelite, she recognized him. It's him? Do you know his mom? Irene Horton asked. I brought him and his friends to register. I only know that they're from North America. This person is very strong, at least stronger than most people in the gathering area. Is he really from North America? Irene Horton asked in surprise. It was like a football genius in China. It would cause a sensation. This person is not only strong, but also very experienced. Sivir was also surprised. He could face more than 20 enemies alone and still fight with ease. His enemies weren't weak, but they couldn't do anything to Angelite. Sivir frowned and was about to stop the fight. Irene Horton stopped Sivir. Don't go over yet. What's wrong? Sivir asked, confused. Look at the weapons they're holding. The two daggers are strange. They look like ancient daggers. They're used to bleed. Some ancient religions would use these daggers to bleed sacrifices. Sivir raised an eyebrow. There were a few victims a few days ago. They were bled. That's right. Irene Horton nodded. Very few people use this kind of dagger now. Those two looked very familiar with it, as if they had practiced it before. They're cultists? Sivir suddenly realized. Sivir looked in the direction of the supernatural organization. They didn't want to fight either. They were all watching from the side. The battle didn't last long. Angelite displayed overwhelming strength and his unparalleled battle experience. Even with his back to the enemy, no one could attack him from behind. Angelite clapped his hands and walked to Sivir and Irene Horton. Then, he flicked his finger, and a badge he'd found from the cultists landed in Sivir's hand. Sivir's pupils contracted when she saw the badge. Truth. Reason. Sect was a famous evil sect. They found it there. Angelite, on the other hand, strolled back to the team in a carefree manner. The records in the Heroic Spirit's notebook are not bad, West said. The reason they attacked the cultists was for the merit points. There are a few unfriendly gazes, Helios said. Looks like there are still fish that escaped the net, Angelite said. These cultists seem to be planning something. Grandpa, I'm already at your door. Sanel called Stephen. Oh, wait, you're in front of my house. Stephen suddenly realized. Yeah, what's wrong? I'm not at home now. I'm at the company, Stephen said quickly. It's okay. I have the key to your house, Sannel said. Wait, I'm going to change the key, Stephen said. I'll get my bodyguard to give you the key. But you didn't lock the door. Sannel pushed open the door of Stephen's villa. I'm already in. Don't go in yet. Stephen was anxious. Raymond was still in his house. Don't scare Sannel by barging in like this. Confused, Sannel walked into the villa. Sannel, I remember now. I have something here. Come to my company immediately. I have something for you. Grandpa, can't you just bring it back? I'm tired. I don't want to move now. Sannel entered the villa and went to the kitchen to get a drink. You should be back soon. Why are you free to come to my house? Don't you go to school? It's the weekend. Mom doesn't come home all day. I'm bored at home alone, so I plan to stay here for 2 days. Grandpa, do you not welcome me? No, I welcome you. Of course I welcome you. Why wouldn't I? Stephen stuttered. Then rest well and watch the movie first. There's a DVD of my new movie at home. I've already watched it in the theater. Then watch it again. I've watched it 10 times to support your movie. The DVD at home is different. What's different? It's a Blu-ray, and a lot of content that wasn't edited in the theater. Oh, then I'll watch it again. Sannel turned on the DVD player and found the DVD that Stephen mentioned. The DVD player had just played the beginning of the movie. Sannel suddenly heard a sound outside. Sannel turned his head and saw nothing. But just as Sannel turned his attention back to the movie, he heard a splash from the swimming pool outside. Sannel stood up in confusion and looked at the swimming pool through the French windows. There were ripples in the swimming pool. But there was nothing in the swimming pool. There was no one in sight either. Sannel frowned. There was no one here, and there was nothing in the water. Why were there ripples? Sannel walked to the front yard and looked around a few times. There was a water stain next to the pool, and the water stain left a clear trail that extended into the grass next to it. Something seemed to have crawled out of the water and hid in the grass. Sannel swallowed his saliva. Could it be that some unknown person had entered the villa? Sannel shouted into the grass. Come out, I see you. But no one responded to Sannel. Sannel shouted again. If you don't come out, I'll call the police. Still, there was no movement. Sannel gathered his courage and rushed to the edge of the grass, pulling it open. There was nothing inside. It was empty. Sannel heaved a long sigh of relief. Suddenly, Sannel felt a chill on the back of her neck. It was like a cold wind blowing on the back of her neck. Sannel turned his head. But he saw a ferocious face. Snake. A super big snake. The huge snake's head was facing Sannel, less than 10 centimeters away from her face. Their eyes met, and then Sannel fell backward and fainted. Not long after, Stephen came running back in a hurry. Seeing Raymond and Sannel lying on the ground, he hurried over. Raymond, what did you do to Sannel? Raymond spat a mouthful of saliva onto Stephen's body, then turned around and dove into the bushes. Stephen wiped away Raymond's saliva and hurriedly picked up Sannel. Sannel was only unconscious, not injured. Obviously, he had misunderstood Raymond just now. Stephen had misunderstood Raymond because he was too anxious. Chapter 1921. Helplessly, Stephen could only call Chen Zhao. Chen, something happened at home. What? Just now, when Sannel came back, she ran into Raymond and fainted. Then take her to the hospital. Why are you calling me? Raymond seems to be angry at me. I misunderstood him. Okay, I'll go now. When Chen Zhao arrived at Stephen's house, Raymond came out. Master, take me back. I hate this old human man. Chen Zhao shrugged helplessly. Okay. Stephen hurriedly ran out. Chen, you're here. How's your granddaughter? She just fainted. Take me to see her. Raymond, he's angry. Then help me explain. Explain my ass? It's already a misunderstanding. Raymond had always been petty. Explanations were useless against him. If not for Chen Zhao restraining him, Raymond would probably have torn Stephen apart. After all, Raymond was a demon, and one that could distinguish between gratitude and grudges. What do we do now? I'll take Raymond back. Stephen was also helpless, but he still felt somewhat guilty. Take me to see your granddaughter. Chen Zhao entered the room and checked on Sanel. She was fine. She was just scared. Fainting was a human self-protection mechanism. Excessive psychological and physiological reactions would cause the brain to temporarily seal itself, which was fainting. It's nothing. She'll wake up after a nap. And then? And then what? How do I explain to Sanel later? Just say that she fainted from anemia and had hallucinations. There's nothing hard to explain, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. That's true. Stephen nodded. Chen, apologize to Raymond for me. I misunderstood him. Apologize yourself. I can't do anything about it. How can someone else apologize for you? What does Raymond like to eat? This can't be made up for with food. Raymond's pride is hurt. Stephen felt more and more guilty. He wanted to do something to make up for Raymond's hurt. Chen Zhao brought Raymond back. Ah! Sanel screamed as soon as she woke up. But when she opened her eyes, she saw Stephen and Daly Moore standing by her window. Grandpa, Mom! A snake! A very big snake! Sunir exclaimed. What snake? I saw it. I really saw it. A very, very big snake. What snake? Sanel, are you hallucinating? The doctor came just now and said you're in a coma due to anemia. Daly Moore said. Illusion? Is it an illusion? Sanner looked at Stephen in surprise. Yeah, I don't have any snakes here, Stephen said with certainty. Was it really an illusion? Sanel heard Stephen and Dahlia Moore's replies. He was also a little unsure. After all, the giant snake in her mind was too exaggerated. Normally speaking, it was impossible for such a huge snake to exist. Therefore, Stephen and Daly Moore's explanation made more sense. However, when he was unconscious, how could he have such a hallucination? Moreover, his body had always been very healthy. How did he suddenly become anemic? But Sangner didn't think too much about it. Rest well. Stephen and Dahlia Moore left the room. Dahlia Moore, is Sanel okay? She's fine. She's just scared. What can happen to her? I was worried that she'd be like you. How can there be such a coincidence? Dahlia Moore shook her head. That's good. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome. It's not troublesome. I can solve it myself now. Plus, I know my kind. Plus, even if my friend and I can't solve it, there's still Chin. There's nothing he can't solve. Is Chin stronger than you and your friend? There's no comparison. Dahlia Moore had never seen Chen Zhao fight with his full strength. But Knott's Singer had seen him before. She'd even told her about Chen Nao's terrifying side. Stephen, on the other hand, was just an ordinary person, so he didn't have any concept of strength. But Stephen had seen Chen Zhao fight before. That was the only time he'd experienced a supernatural event. Stephen still had a deep impression of it. Basically, as long as it's a supernatural event, Chen can solve it. Is Chen that strong? My friend said that there's almost no one in the world who can beat Chen. Then he should go boxing. He can definitely become a boxing superstar. No, I think he has a student who's a boxer. Dahlia Moore felt like she was playing the piano to a cow. Stephen couldn't understand at all. Boxing? All the boxers combined couldn't even compare to one of Chen Zhao's fingers. Nagasaka Reiko enjoyed the scenery along the way. It was her first time in Los Angeles. Before coming, her grandmother Yoko Hikari had reminded her many times. She had to maintain a good relationship with Chen Zhao. This would determine whether she could successfully take over the position of the Witch of Tokyo Grand Shrine in the future. Nagasaka Reiko had also seen Chen Zhao's most terrifying side.
She was one of the few people who'd witnessed and survived the battle between Qin Zhao and Tamamonome. After passing the coastal highway, a gorgeous manor built on a cliff appeared before them. When the car arrived at Mingwe Villa, Nagasaka Reiko alighted. Nagaka Reiko entered Mingwe Villa and saw Qin Zhao and the children playing around. Nagasaka Reiko saw a huge head in the courtyard. It was clearly the head of a dragon. "Hello, Mr. Qin." "Yes, hello. Nice to meet you, Ms. Reiko." Qin Zhao nodded. "I just arrived in Los Angeles today, so I came to greet you as soon as possible. Don't be so polite. I'm not used to it. What plans do you have next?" Qin Zhao looked at Nagasaka Reiko. He was not used to Nagasaka Reiko's politeness. Nagasaka Reiko had too many etiquettes. The moment she found Qin Zhao, she knelt on the ground and cowed out to him. "I'm planning to go through the enrollment procedures at UCLA," Nagasaka Reiko said respectfully. "Also, I hope to become a part of the supernatural organization. Even if it's just an internship, it's fine. Please allow me, Mr. Qin." "Sure, but the people from the organization have all gone to Africa, so there's no one at the headquarters now. Find a place to live first and focus on the enrollment procedures. When the people from the organization come back, I'll arrange for you to join the organization." "Yes, Mr. Qin. I think you've just arrived in Los Angeles and have many things to do, so I won't keep you here." Chapter 1922. "Yes, Mr. Qin. I will follow all your orders." Nagasaka Reiko knelt before Qin Zhao and bowed. Qin Zhao rubbed his forehead. He really couldn't accept Japanese etiquette. It was as if this was the only way they could talk properly. Before he left Japan, he promised Yoko White that he would take care of Nagasaka Reiko. One of the most important reasons was Dongye Tianshi. In the past, Higashino Tianshi had been taken care of by Yoko Baina. Dongye Tianshi was one of his people, so it was only right for him to return the favor. It was also human nature for him to take care of Nagasaka Reiko. Before Nagasaka Reiko could leave Mingwe Villa, Wang He arrived. When Nagasaka Reiko saw Wang He, she was stunned for a moment before bowing to Wang He. "Hello, Crane Lord." Wang He's current reputation in Asia had far surpassed that of Europe and America. Especially among the youths, she had become an iconic star. Of course, Nagasaka Reiko also knew Wang He. Wang He was also stunned for a moment. Even though Nagasaka Reiko spoke in English. However, her posture made it obvious where she came from. "Can I have your autograph?" Okay." Wang He gave Nagasaka Reiko an autograph. After all, Nagasaka Reiko had appeared in Mingwe Villa. She must know Qin Zhao. Wang He turned around and looked at Qin Zhao. "Crane Lord, are you here to see Mr. Qin?" "Yes, Mr. Qin and I are old acquaintances." "Then I won't bother you anymore. Goodbye." Nagasaka Reiko bowed, and Wang He followed suit and bowed. He didn't know how to return the gesture. Most of the countrymen could not accept the Japanese etiquette. Wang He brought Xiaolu to Qin Zhao. "Hello, Mr. Qin. All right, let's sit down and talk." At this moment, Xiaolu was shocked by the magnificence of the Mingwe Villa. In China, except for the area around Xinjiang, it was basically impossible to see a manor of this scale in the mainland. Especially in such a position. Xiaolu was very reserved. He didn't know whether to stand or sit. "Xiaolu, bring the present for Mr. Qin." Qin Zhao glanced at the gift Lu was holding. "Put it down. It's really heavy. What would you like to drink?" "Coke." "Lu, don't tell Nanjie." This was not the first time Wang He had met Qin Zhao, nor was it his first time at Mingwe Villa. Therefore, relatively speaking, it was much easier. "Back home, all my food and drink are restricted," Wang He said with a smile. "This is the price of being a star. Didi, help me get a few bottles of Coke. I'm quite envious of you. Everywhere you go, there are flowers and applause. I envy you too, Mr. Qin. All right, enough with the pleasantries. Did you change your assistant? I've never seen him before." Qin Zhao looked at Lu. "Mr. Qin, nice to meet you.
I'm Lu Yiming, Brother Wang's new agent. Xiao Lu was also someone who had seen the world. He had been in the industry for a long time. He had also accumulated a certain amount of connections, coupled with excellent work ability. It was because of this that he was able to snatch the opportunity to become Wang He's manager. He had also met some big bosses. Of course, this was the first time he had the opportunity to meet such a top tycoon face to face. There was no chance for him to talk to such a tycoon in China. After all, he was in the entertainment industry. The biggest boss in the entertainment industry was not considered a top tycoon. Not to mention a small fry like him. There were many people in the entertainment industry who had more connections and skills than him. At most, he had a bit of fame in the industry. Therefore, he did not dare to be careless when facing Chen Zhao, nor did he dare to put on airs and think too highly of himself. That young lady earlier is a Japanese? Yes, a relative's child. Mr. Chen, you have Japanese blood? You're the one with Japanese blood. Your whole family is Japanese. Chen Zhao scolded immediately. Wang He smiled awkwardly. The more Chen Zhao scolded him, the more he felt fine. Mr. Chen, where's Ms. Gaia? Oh, she went to Africa, Chen Zhao said. Is there any new movie? I'm waiting for Mr. Chen to invest, Wang He replied, smiling. I'm just playing. God knows when the next movie will be. If you wait for me to invest in a new movie, don't even think about it for the rest of your life. Wang He chuckled. He also knew that Chen Zhao could not invest in every movie. Compared to when they first met, Wang He was much more mature now. Whether it was his speech, behavior, or expression, he could be calm. He no longer showed his emotions on his face like before. His conversation with Chen Zhao was more like a conversation between friends. Mr. Chen, are you going to the movie celebration party? I won't go. I hate those kinds of occasions the most. It's too troublesome. Chen Zhao shook his head. I want to be as carefree as you, Mr. Chen. But Wang He also knew that it was impossible. After all, he was an artist, no matter how high his status was. He had to be respectful to investors, sponsors, and even directors and assistant directors. Mr. Chen, when are you coming back? I don't have any plans for now. Wang He was not the first person to say this. But Chen Zhao did not know what he would do after returning. There were only a few people he had contact with in China, such as his university teachers. He would only say good wishes to his teachers during holidays. As for his classmates or friends, he had basically lost contact with them. He did not even visit his relatives in China. Why would he go back? Therefore, Chen Zhao basically gave up on the idea of returning. Wang He and Chen Zhao chatted for an hour. They were basically talking about the changes in China. Wang He had always thought that Chen Zhao had been abroad for more than 10 years. In reality, Chen Zhao had only been abroad for a little more than 2 years. There would not be any drastic changes in China. Chen Zhao did not correct Wang He's thoughts. The two had a good chat. Then Wang He said goodbye and left. Chen Zhao glanced at the time. He had not called Xian Li and the others today. It should be around 9 at night in England. Chen Zhao called Xian Li. Xian Li, are you still in Edinburgh? Uncle, we're in London now. Our next stop is Denmark's capital, Copenhagen. Oh. Have a good time. Uncle, we're not playing. We're exploring. Xian Li corrected him immediately. Okay, I was wrong. I hope your exploration goes well. Xian Li still did not know that Chen Zhao had interfered when she was injured last time. She thought that she had hidden it perfectly and that Ruan Faxi and the others had cooperated well too. Her explanation to Chen Zhao was that she had lost her phone for the past 2 days, so she had not called him. Chapter 1923. Chen Zhao took out the stone that he'd gotten from Edinburgh. This stone had fused with the king of monsters, the 100-headed snake. The stone was very big. The longest part was about 40 meters long, and the smallest part was 20 meters. It was almost oval. It weighed more than 1,000 tons. Even the 100-headed snake couldn't move it.
Qin Zhao had been studying the stone's texture over the past few days. But he didn't get any results. Yang Gua had said that he could feel the life force contained in the stone. He'd already sent the small stone back to Dragon Tiger Mountain. Qin Zhao couldn't feel the life force in it. But he'd seen it in his battle with the 100-headed snake. No matter how many heads Qin Zhao cut off, he could always regrow them. Even Qin Zhao couldn't compare to its surging life force. Other than those that could crush Qin Zhao with a finger, the 100-headed snake's life force was the strongest he'd ever seen. It was closest to being immortal. Even with the black trident, Qin Zhao had to stab the place where the 100-headed snake was connected to the stone to kill it. Qin Zhao suddenly thought of something. Satan's blood was pure destruction, while this stone was pure life force. If they collided, who would be left behind? Satan's blood was the most domineering thing Qin Zhao had ever seen. Except for Qin Zhao's black trident. When Old Turtle ascended, he'd fused his inner core, which was transformed from immortal power, into the black trident. Therefore, it wasn't an exaggeration to call it an immortal weapon. Satan's blood was even more domineering. Anyone below the Demon King level would die with one touch. Qin Zhao would need hundreds or even thousands of years to absorb the power in Satan's blood. Therefore, Qin Zhao was thinking that if there was something that could neutralize Satan's blood, would it be easier for him to absorb it? But how to fuse it was another problem. Should he release Satan's blood directly from the bottle? Just the destructive power of Satan's blood alone was enough to destroy Qin Zhao's Minghua Villa and all the living things within 100 miles. Of course, Qin Zhao could use a cool spell to absorb the power of Satan's blood in advance. But then, Satan's blood would become a one-time weapon. Qin Zhao couldn't absorb it for his own power. He could only use it as a weapon. Therefore, the idea of using Satan's blood to fuse with this stone was obviously not feasible. He wanted to see if his immortal energy would react to it. Qin Zhao tried to send his immortal power into the stone, but there was no reaction. Qin Zhao touched the rough surface with his palm. The material of this stone was very hard. However, it was not indestructible. Qin Zhao thought of the 100-headed snake. It could fuse with rocks. Furthermore, he could absorb the life force within it. However, that kind of fusion was clearly not what Qin Zhao wanted. He didn't want his body to grow on a rock. Qin Zhao thought of a solution, a very old-fashioned one. Eat stones. Qin Zhao broke a stone off the boulder and put it in his mouth to chew. Of course, the taste was not good, very bad. Qin Zhao finished it in one bite. His mouth was already dry, so he had to drink it with water. Useful? He realized that his digestive system was absorbing the life force in the stone. But isn't this absorption and digestion speed a little too slow? Not only was it a problem of low efficiency, but the utilization rate was also very low. If it is taken orally in this manner, even if Qin Zhao ate day and night, it would take him more than a decade to finish over 1,000 tons of stones. By then, even if Qin Zhao didn't get stones, his teeth would fall out. Moreover, there was an 80% to 90% chance that this method would also waste the vitality within. Would Qin Zhao have to absorb it a second time? Just thinking about it was disgusting. So, taking it orally was clearly the stupidest method. There had to be a more efficient way. Qin Zhao thought of another problem. Why could it be absorbed in his stomach? Was it stomach acid? Or was it just liquid? Qin Zhao thought about it and decided to do an experiment. He soaked the stones in fresh water, seawater, and vinegar. He wanted to see how the three reacted to the stones. After 20 minutes of soaking, Qin Zhao observed the three separately. They all seemed to have similar effects. Then, Qin Zhao drank the liquid that had soaked the stones. Seawater had the worst effect. Qin Zhao absorbed very little life force, less than 20%. Fresh water had the best effect. It could absorb about 80% of the liquid's life force. Vinegar was average. It could absorb about 50% of the liquid's life force. However, vinegar dissolved the stones the fastest. This was understandable. After all, acid was the most corrosive substance in nature. Qin Zhao thought about it. Even if he soaked it in fresh water, it would probably take decades to completely dissolve such a large stone. Just then, Zhang Tianyi called. Qin Zhao, how have you been? Nothing much. Why are you so angry? Who made you unhappy this time? Nothing, what's up? Can I call you to greet you for no reason? Alright, are you done greeting them? You must have taken the wrong medicine, Zhang Tianyi said frivolously. Tell me, what's up? Zhang Tianyi could hear Qin Zhao's impatience and immediately returned to the topic. Okay, do you still have the stones you asked Yanguo to send? Yes. Qin Zhao's heart skipped a beat, but his tone remained calm. Give me some more. No more. Qin Zhao, can we be more sincere? You want them all the time? Do you think there's a lot of them? I only have a little myself. From the marks on the stone you gave me, it's definitely from a very large stone. It's at least dozens of kilograms. I don't want a lot. Just give me half. Ha! Qin Zhao sneered. Tell me your conditions, Zhang Tianyi said dejectedly. This stone contains a lot of vitality, right? Qin Zhao asked. Hearing this, Zhang Tianyi was even more dejected. Since Qin Zhao already knew, he couldn't ask for too low a price. Cut the crap. Tell me your conditions. What do they call them in the spiritual world? Qin Zhao asked. In China, they call them primordial stones. In Europe and America, they call them life stones. How do you usually absorb primordial stones? Qin Zhao asked. That's difficult. Sorry for disturbing. Qin Zhao hung up. A while later, Zhang Tianyi called again. How can you be like this? You hang up the moment you don't agree with me. It's because you're not honest at all. Fine, let's be honest. First, tell me how many primordial stones you have. Around 100 kilograms, Qin Zhao said. Based on your cunning personality, that means you have at least 200 kilograms. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 1924. Qin Zhao and Zhang Tianyi weren't actually close. More accurately, they'd only met twice. The first time was when 23rd generation Blood Mary brought him to Moon Villa. They'd had an exchange of magic, dharma, and enlightenment. The other time was when he was in Dongying. So they weren't close. But Qin Zhao felt that they should be. Zhang Tianyi was a charismatic person. It was hard for people to distance themselves from him. His casual and carefree attitude made Qin Zhao feel comfortable. Of course, just because Qin Zhao liked Zhang Tianyi didn't mean he'd give it to him for free. Old Zhang, let's be honest. Why did you take the primordial stones? Nonsense, Zhang Tianyi said matter-of-factly. With such dense vitality, of course I use it to extend my lifespan. Does Dragon Tiger Mountain have some secret technique that can absorb the vitality of primordial stones? This secret technique is a secret of our Longhu Mountain. Name your price. Zhang Tianyi could speak to Qin Zhao so calmly. This meant that it was on the trade list. I want 50 kilograms, Zhang Tianyi said. Zhang Tianyi said, don't be in a hurry to bargain. 50 kilograms of primordial stones can increase my lifespan by almost 10 years. I know that you have at least 200 kilograms of primordial stones in your hands. I only want a quarter of your lifespan. It's not too much. If you rely on primordial stones, you can at most increase your lifespan by 30 years. You can only strengthen your body, but it can't achieve the effect of increasing your lifespan. More than 30 years and it won't work? Hearing that, Zhang Tianyi immediately yelled. Great, you really have more primordial stones. It's none of your business, Qin Zhao said straightforwardly. I'll agree to 50 kilograms. Don't even think about more. How much do you have? None of your business. Tell me how much you have. Not much. Tell me the truth. How much do you have? Around 300 kilograms. Really? Really more real than pearls. Give me 150 kilograms, Zhang Tianyi said. No, you want half at once. Don't even think about it. Definitely more than 300 kilograms.
You definitely have more. I really didn't. Qin Zhao wouldn't admit it no matter what. Qin Zhao, you're still young. You can't understand my fear of death. I don't have much time left. I really didn't. Give me 150 kilograms. You keep another 150 kilograms. More is useless. You said that this can increase the strength of the body? This kind of treasure should be used to increase one's lifespan, not to strengthen one's physical body. Moreover, with the strength of your current physical body, no matter how many primordial stones you have, it won't have much effect on you. I can let my family use it. Hee hee. In this world, other than you, me, and Blood Mary, no one else can use it. Why? For those who are powerful enough, it's a treasure. For those who aren't, it's a deadly poison. How about this? Give me 150 kilograms, and I'll tell you how to increase your lifespan and strengthen your body. Qin Zhao thought for a while and answered, Sure. It's very simple. Fuse the origin stone with the small world. The small world can naturally absorb the life force within the primordial stone. That simple? That simple, Zhang Tianyi said with certainty. You tricked me of 150 kilograms of primordial stones for such a simple answer? What do you mean by tricking? It's a fair trade. If I figure it out myself, I can figure it out too, Chen Zhao said, gritting his teeth. But you haven't figured it out yet. You said that this is a secret technique of Dragon Tiger Mountain. Yes. It's simple, but it's indeed a secret technique. Zhang Tianyi answered shamelessly. Oh, right. This method can only be used once. After that, it can't be used again. What do you mean it can't be used again? Once the small world fuses with the primordial stone once, it can't be fused a second time. Zhang Tianyi paused. Actually, the small world can fuse with everything in the world. Similarly, there's only one chance. What do you mean by fusing? Your small world has no element, right? Qin Zhao didn't deny it. To Zhang Tianyi, this wasn't a secret. Yes. Everyone's small world has no element at the beginning. Apart from replenishing near-infinite magical power, it has no other use. However, it can be fused with some special power or some treasure to give your small world a special element. Zhang Tianyi said. Zhang Tianyi said, You've met some enemies who have the power to call the wind and summon the rain, right? Their small world has a special attribute. Qin Zhao nodded subconsciously. Indeed. Indeed. He'd met some enemies who were clearly weaker than him. However, they had the power to summon wind and rain. So, what they lacked was the small world's element. Has your small world never fused with other things? Qin Zhao asked curiously. No, I don't need it. I'm strong enough now. Nothing or anyone can threaten me. Also, in the past few decades, there's nothing worth fusing with, so even if it's a small world with no element, I have absolute power. I'm pissed off by your tone. Let's fight? I can't be bothered with you. Do you want to argue with me or listen to my explanation? Fine, continue. The benefit of fusing with the primordial stone is to increase your lifespan and strengthen your physical strength at the same time, but it will also make you lose the opportunity to obtain other attributes in the future. Zhang Tianyi said, The use of the small world is actually more mysterious and complicated than you think. If it was just increasing his lifespan, Qin Zhao might not be tempted. However, Qin Zhao didn't just have a few primordial stones now. He had more than 1,000 tons. Qin Zhao was very tempted. He could use the stones to strengthen his body. This wasn't an unacceptable condition. Moreover, Qin Zhao didn't need other elements. For example, Qin Zhao's second small world, Lightning Storm. The effects of Lightning Storm were shocking. However, it wasn't that useful against someone of the same level. It was even useless. The first owner of Lightning Storm had used it against Qin Zhao, but it didn't seem to have any effect. What steps do I need to fuse with the stones? Or some secret technique? No. Go figure it out yourself. It's not difficult for you. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Okay.
As soon as Chen Zhao hung up, Mary, the 23rd generation's blood, called. Chen Zhao's heart skipped a beat. Jiang Tianyi, that old bastard, really didn't keep his mouth shut. Mr. Chen, do you know why I'm calling you? Not really. 150 kilograms of primordial stones. Name your conditions. Chapter 1925. Blood Mary, you know the value of the stone, right? I know. That's why I want you to name your price. To the 23rd Blood Mary, what did the stone represent? As an old person who knew her destiny, the last thing she wanted to face was time. The 23rd generation Blood Mary thought that she could face death calmly. But when she found out that Chen Zhao had the stone, her heart, which had already been dead silent, began to stir again. Chen Zhao cursed Jiang Tianyi. What can you give me? Chen Zhao asked. Chen Zhao knew the value, and so did 23rd Blood Mary. Chen Zhao had to make sure that he could get the most out of it. He didn't need to think about the ways of the world anymore. The ways of the world couldn't compare to the stone's value. Especially to the 23rd Blood Mary. It was a life-saving treasure. It wasn't more valuable than the stone in the entire world. She could give up everything for this mixed essence stone. Of course, she had to give something that could move Chen Zhao. After all, Chen Zhao wasn't someone she could mess around with. The 23rd Blood Mary was silent for a long time. Chen Zhao patiently waited for Mary's reply on the other end of the phone. It wasn't an easy decision. The 23rd Blood Mary had a lot of collections. There were even things more precious than the mixed essence stone. The Scarlet Church had accumulated over 1,000 years. But there weren't many things that could make the 23rd Blood Mary take out for a trade. After a few minutes, the 23rd Blood Mary finally spoke. I can give you a piece of information. A piece of information? Are you sure? Chen Zhao didn't think that a piece of information could make him pay the stone. Your cultivation is higher than mine and old Zhang's, the 23rd Blood Mary said with certainty. Your lifespan is definitely not low, so the stone's greatest effect might not be attractive to you. Chen Zhao was silent. He didn't admit or deny it. No matter what she said, she couldn't deny the stone's value. So for you, the greatest effect of the primordial stone is to strengthen your body. However, the effect of the primordial stone on strengthening your body is far less obvious than increasing your lifespan. The 23rd Blood Mary's tone gradually calmed down. It seemed that she'd calmed down. Her words were orderly. The information I can give you is about the legendary golden apple tree. Golden apple tree? That's right, isn't your adopted daughter looking for the golden apple? I know where the golden apple tree is, the 23rd Blood Mary said. Since you know where the golden apple tree is, why don't you go get it? The golden apple tree is in the legendary sacred garden, and there is a god guarding the sacred garden. That god is the legendary Hercules, the illegitimate child of Zeus and Alcmene, said Mary. You're not kidding me, are you? No, I'm not joking. The 23rd Blood Mary said seriously. Also, the golden apple that your adopted daughter is looking for is pointing to the holy garden. In other words, even without your guidance, my adopted daughter might be able to find it on her own. Anyone who enters the holy garden will be killed. If I didn't warn you, are you sure your adopted daughter would have survived? After all, they are about to face a true god. Fine. Chen Zhao had to admit it. The 23rd Blood Mary's words had indeed helped him avert a tragedy. Also, the golden apple has endless power. It can give you the power you need. In other words, the golden apple will give you whatever magic element you have. So, in comparison, the golden apple tree is more valuable than the primordial stone, the 23rd Blood Mary said. Also, the golden apple tree only bears 3 fruits each time. It only bears fruit once every 1,000 years. You only provided me with information. You didn't bring the golden apple tree to my house. So, I only want your primordial stone. I don't want you to pay more. Chen Zhao took a deep breath. Fine, I agree to this deal. Tomorrow, Jiang Tianyi and I will go to your place, the 23rd Blood Mary said. Both the 23rd generation Blood Mary and Zhang Tianyi attached great importance to this. More seriously than anything else. They even wanted to show up personally. Chen Zhao thought for a moment, and suddenly thought of a question. Have you seen Hercules? He asked. Blood Mary of the 23rd generation knew ancient Greek, and her space magic was compiled in ancient Greek. So, Qin Zhao suspected that the 23rd Blood Mary had come into contact with an existence from ancient Greek legends. Yes, I've entered the Holy Garden, the 23rd Blood Mary said without hesitation. I thought I was strong enough. Even if I couldn't defeat Hercules, I could at least protect myself. But I still underestimated the power of the legendary gods. Since they were going to cooperate, the 23rd Blood Mary naturally had to show her sincerity. So, she planned to tell Qin Zhao everything. That was a despairing existence. With just one attack destroyed my little world. It took me several years to rebuild my little world, but it wasn't like I didn't gain anything. I found a spatial magic book in the Holy Garden. Although it couldn't compare to the golden apple, at least it made up for my loss. How did you escape from Hercules? The difference in power is so huge. I really can't think of how you escaped. If it was Qin Zhao, he wouldn't let the 23rd Blood Mary escape if he started a war with her. I'm old, so I treasure my life a lot more, the 23rd Blood Mary said. The 23rd Blood Mary said, I did not confront Hercules directly. With the secret method, I was able to escape unscathed from Hercules. I should be the only human who could escape from him after entering the sacred garden. Being able to escape from the hands of a true god was a great achievement for the 23rd generation Blood Mary. Qin Zhao didn't know what he was feeling right now. A god? Was he finally lucky enough to face a real god? Moreover, the legendary Hercules was also known for his endless power. He seemed to have the same element as Qin Zhao. He didn't know if he could fight Hercules. Even Qin Zhao wasn't confident. The 23rd Blood Mary didn't tell Qin Zhao the location of the Holy Garden. After all, she hadn't gotten the primordial stone yet. She didn't want to take the risk. After all, the stone was too important to her. Chapter 1926. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd generation Blood Mary both took a day to get to Los Angeles. Qin Zhao also divided the origin stones and gave them to them. Zhang Tianyi started checking in front of Qin Zhao. Old Zhang, your actions clearly show that you don't trust me. We're not that close. Zhang Tianyi rolled his eyes. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd Blood Mary didn't tell anyone about this. They didn't even tell their subordinates or disciples. After all, the primordial stone was too important to them. Even if the others couldn't use the mixed essence stone. But who didn't want to live for 30 years? If this matter were to spread, they would never have a day of peace. Chen Zhao would never have a day of peace either. This matter would remain a secret forever. Even when they came to Los Angeles, they were very secretive. After the two old men and old women checked, they confirmed that the primordial stones were correct and the number was correct. Old Zhang, how is this mixed energy stone made? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Nonsense, how would I know? If I knew, I would have produced them in bulk. Zhang Tianyi rolled his eyes. There are too many treasures of heaven and earth with unknown origins in this world. Who has the time to think about their origins? I occasionally find primordial origin stones in Europe. The 23rd Blood Mary said. They're all from the Warcraft battlefield from hundreds of years ago or even older, so people speculate that the primordial stones are the fossils of Warcraft beasts. Qin Zhao, you must have more primordial stones, right? No, I really don't, Qin Zhao said helplessly. Anyway, Qin Zhao had decided to play dumb until the end. He absolutely could not admit that he still had a lot. Zhang Tianyi and 23rd didn't believe him. However, they still felt that even if Qin Zhao had more, there wouldn't be many. After all, this thing was precious. Even if he could find primordial stones on a normal day, it would be 1 or 2 kilograms at most. Those who need it are eager, and those who don't need it are discarded. Of course, those people couldn't fuse with the small world like Zhang Tianyi, the 23rd generation, and Qin Zhao. They could also think of other ways, although he was not as efficient as the three of them. However, everyone longed to enjoy a longer lifespan. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd generation were very happy. Especially the 23rd generation. She was prepared to face the end of her life. Who would have thought that he would be able to escape from death's door? Qin Zhao had actually found the origin stone. Moreover, it could be said to be a very large number of primordial stones. Qin Zhao, where did you get this stone? I fished it out of the sea. Qin Zhao answered casually. You guys merge with the primordial stone here. I want to see the process. I also don't know how to do it. Old Zhang, take this opportunity to demonstrate it to us, said Xi. Zhang Tianyi knew that if he didn't demonstrate it on the spot, he wouldn't be able to leave. To a certain extent, Qin Zhao and the 23rd generation were both unreasonable. Zhang Tianyi pursed his lips. It's not a difficult task. Just watch. Zhang Tianyi demonstrated the process of fusing the primordial stone in front of the two of them. Qin Zhao and the 23rd generation protected Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Tianyi held the primordial stone in his hands, and the power of his little heaven and earth began to seep into the primordial stone. Qin Zhao and 23rd observed every detail. Zhang Tianyi was caught off guard. He wholeheartedly devoted himself to the fusion process. With every bit of penetration, the primordial stone would peel off a layer of stone shell. These stone shells had already lost most of their vitality. With a light touch, it dissipated. However, there was still a very thin amount of vitality left. The entire process only took a dozen minutes. Zhang Tianyi finished the fusion. Zhang Tianyi was completely energized. His white hair turned black too. It was as if he'd become 10 years younger. The 23rd generation was the most excited. Zhang Tianyi had indeed become younger. Don't take the primordial stone powder away. It's mine too. Qin Zhao grabbed a handful of the powder. What's this for? It's good for medicine too. Zhang Tianyi carefully put away all the powder. After a few thousand years, it can gather into a primordial stone again. Qin Zhao's face twitched. A few thousand years? Who would have a few thousand years? But after hearing Zhang Tianyi's words, Qin Zhao thought of his super primordial stone. England had once been called the Island of Monsters. Could the super primordial stone be formed from the remains of monsters? After all, humans had killed all the monsters in order to rule England. No one could say for sure how many they'd killed. Zhang Tianyi took out a knife and cut a hole in the middle of his palm. The wound on his palm quickly healed. What a powerful recovery ability! 23rd generation gasped in amazement. It's really effective. Zhang Tianyi was also very satisfied. But Qin Zhao was secretly disdainful. He didn't need the life force in the primordial stone to have such strong recovery. Of course, this was mainly because his cultivation was all in his body. How do I make medicine? Qin Zhao asked. You don't even know the basics, Zhang Tianyi said disdainfully, glancing at Qin Zhao. There's no point in telling you. Let's spar. Qin Zhao was instantly enraged. Whatever. I'll have my disciple give you a recipe later. Then, 23rd generation also started the fusion. At their level, as long as the user didn't purposely hide, the casting process wouldn't escape their eyes. The 23rd generation also took only 10 minutes to complete the fusion process. The two looked at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao shrugged. Why are you looking at me? Aren't you going to do it now? I don't have any more primordial stones. Qin Zhao didn't want to take out the super primordial stone. He didn't want the two to get greedy. It was too eye-catching. 23rd generation and Zhang Tianyi didn't believe him. Okay, we're leaving. Zhang Tianyi and 23rd generation didn't plan on staying. After all, they'd come secretly, so they had to leave secretly too. After confirming that they'd left, Qin Zhao entered the river map. It would take a long time to completely fuse such a huge amount of primordial stone. 23rd generation, and Zhang Tianyi used more than 10 minutes to fuse 150 kilograms of primordial stone. However, Chen Zhao's 1,000 tons of primordial stone needed more than 10,000 times more time than them. Therefore, he had to enter the river map to fuse. Of course, Qin Zhao didn't forget Zhang Tianyi's words. He collected the fused powder. Qin Zhao realized that his fusion speed was very fast at the beginning. It was mainly because his small world had completely covered the primordial stone. However, as the stone shell of the primordial stone kept peeling off, the speed gradually slowed down. Chapter 1927. Qin Zhao could feel the life force contained in his small world. It was the purest essence of life force. Qin Zhao started absorbing the life force into his body. He felt that all his cells were filled with power. His skin also started oozing dirt. This wasn't the first time Qin Zhao had cleansed his tendons and veins. This time, Qin Zhao felt like he had been reborn. The life force was continuously reconstructing Qin Zhao's body, reconstructing every part and structure of his body. Just then, a key hidden in his spatial ring suddenly flew out. Qin Zhao saw that he'd gotten this key from Murphy's mother. The key instantly sank into Qin Zhao's body. Then, Qin Zhao's body started disintegrating uncontrollably. Qin Zhao paled in fright. His mind was still very clear. But he couldn't stop the process. The key disappeared after entering Qin Zhao's body. This key was the culprit for disintegrating Qin Zhao's body. In the end, Qin Zhao was only left with his soul and the yin-yang fish in the center of his soul. The surroundings were filled with a bloody mist formed by Qin Zhao's disintegrating body. Suddenly, the bloody mist started gathering toward Qin Zhao's soul again. The reconstruction process was even more thorough than before. The entire process wasn't under Qin Zhao's control. Qin Zhao was just passively enduring the entire process. Qin Zhao had already activated 3 keys. One was the golden key. Its ability was to allow Qin Zhao to evolve under the influence of the environment. The second was the soul key. It allowed Qin Zhao to absorb the soul of his mortal enemy and fill in the flaws of his own soul. At the same time, it made his willpower and spiritual power stronger. The third was the blood-colored key. Of course, it could also be called the God's key. The blood-colored key allowed Qin Zhao to cross the gap between man and God. It allowed Qin Zhao to touch the realm of God. At that time, Qin Zhao understood that each key had a certain ability. It seemed to be able to unlock some kind of restriction in his body. Then what about the fourth key? What effect did it have? What did it mean? The body reconstruction process lasted for a few days. He couldn't do anything in the next few days. He couldn't understand the changes in his body. During this process, Qin Zhao's small world had gathered a large amount of life force. It poured endlessly into Qin Zhao's body. Qin Zhao's body was like a bottomless abyss, greedily devouring every drop of life force. When Qin Zhao's body was reconstructed, he could finally move. He wanted to know what had happened to his body. His speed and strength had all been greatly improved. However, he still didn't understand any substantial changes. What exactly had changed? Finally, Qin Zhao's body and even the small world were full of vitality. He could no longer fuse with any primordial stones. At this time, there was still less than half of the primordial chaos stone left, which was estimated to be about 400 to 500 tons. Qin Zhao was still confused. What had changed about him? Each key had a unique function. After activating the soul key, he didn't understand its effects for a long time. The blood-red key was also activated by accident. He really wanted to know what the function of the fourth key was. Qin Zhao kept trying to see what changes had happened to his body. However, apart from the increase in strength and speed, it seemed that the yin-yang fish had also grown a lot stronger. Qin Zhao calmed himself down and sat back down. The fourth key was activated when the body was reconstructed. This meant that the condition to activate the fourth key was that the body had to undergo a drastic change or mutation. The function of the fourth key was probably related to the body. Something that he didn't understand must have happened to his body. Was the increase in strength and speed related to the fourth key? It might be related to the fourth key. Or maybe it was because he'd absorbed the vitality in the primordial chaos stone. Chen Zhao had an idea. He put away the primordial chaos stone and its powder. After leaving the river map, he immediately called Zhang Tianyi. Old Zhang, where are you now? I just left your house not long ago. I'm still in the car. Where do you think I am? Come back for a while. I need to talk to you, Chen Zhao said. You're not trying to kill me, are you? Did I accidentally learn some of your secrets, and you want to kill me to silence me? Stop bullshitting. Chen Zhao was speechless at Zhang Tianyi's strange thinking. A while later, Zhang Tianyi and 23rd came back. Why? Zhang Tianyi asked. See if I've changed. Chen Zhao felt that he couldn't feel it because he'd been blinded by his own worldview. As bystanders, Zhang Tianyi and 23rd might be able to see the changes more clearly. Changes? Zhang Tianyi and 23rd studied Chen Zhao seriously. Zhang Tianyi poked Chen Zhao's chest and said in an unhappy tone, You really have the primordial chaos stone. Your body has strengthened quite a bit. Chen Zhao pushed Zhang Tianyi's finger away. I'm not talking about that. Do you feel any other changes other than your body becoming stronger? Let me sense and we'll know. 23rd Gen cast a perception spell on Chen Zhao. But the next moment, he frowned again. What's wrong? Perception failed. 23RD's face was full of confusion. Your body seems to be immune to my perception spell. My body is absolutely immune to low-level spells, Chen Zhao said. I'm not using a normal perception spell. I'm using God's vision, an advanced spell. With my power, the effect is 10 times stronger than a normal spiritualist's. Chen Zhao was slightly stunned. He looked at his body. His magic resistance had increased greatly too. In the past, Chen Zhao could only resist spells to a certain extent. Now, he could resist most spells. Since even God's vision can't work on you, I can't do anything either. Chen Zhao looked at Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Tianyi shrugged. I have an idea. For example, give me a few drops of your blood. I'll go back and study it. Maybe I can understand your changes. Then forget it. The last thing a spiritualist wanted was to give a part of their body to someone else. Not even a few drops of blood. Many spells were released through blood. Even though Chen Zhao thought he was very powerful, he didn't dare to take this risk. Chen Zhao, where did your changes come from? Why do you feel like you've changed? Chapter 1928. Whatever, it's fine. Chen Zhao wouldn't tell them his secret. It seemed like he wouldn't be able to get an answer from them. He could only slowly explore it himself in the future. After chasing the two away, Chen Zhao started studying again. Unfortunately, he didn't have any clues. Chen Zhao's constitution had improved in all aspects, so he needed another round of adaptation. The improvement in his foundation also led to improvements in other aspects. Giant spirit transformation could replenish more spiritual qi. Moreover, Chen Zhao's clones had finally multiplied from 8 to 16. Avatar was a very special spell because each avatar possessed the full power of the main body. Thus, the stronger Chen Zhao was, the more celestial power he used. Even after learning the complete version of cloning, Chen Zhao had been maintaining 8 clones. Even though his power had increased by who knew how many times, the number of clones didn't increase much. Unless Chen Zhao's original strength was maintained and his celestial power doubled, he wouldn't be able to double the number of clones. After absorbing the life force from the primordial stone, Chen Zhao had improved in all aspects. Even his celestial power had increased greatly. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. Chen Zhao glanced at the number. It was Klaus. Hi, Klaus. President. How are you guys in Africa? It's fun. We live by the river and can fish for crocodiles every day. You're definitely not calling me to report your work, right? Usually, it was West who reported to Chen Zhao. Klaus rarely contacted Chen Zhao. Do you remember that I told you last time that I have a normal girlfriend?
Oh. I do.
Teacher, right?
Yes,
Klaus answered. She just called me and asked if I had money. She wants to borrow money from you? Do you suspect that something's wrong with her?
No.
Before I got together with her, I already investigated her identity. She's just a normal girl.
Then what do you mean?
I suspect that she's in trouble, Klaus said. If it was just some money, Klaus didn't mind. After all, he had a lot of savings. Klaus was worried that his girlfriend was in trouble.
Got it. Give me your girlfriend's information, Chen Zhao said.
I'll help you take a look. Since the members of the association were out on missions, Chen Zhao naturally had to take care of their families. Chen Zhao called Portia over and told her to watch the baby. Chen Zhao, on the other hand, went straight to Klaus' girlfriend's place. Chen Zhao read a document as he drove. Nellie Winlancy, 29 years old, primary school teacher. Nellie Winlancy's house was in an ordinary neighborhood. Chen Zhao went to Nellie Winlancy's house and knocked. A while later, Nellie Winlancy opened the door and looked at Chen Zhao.
Hello, sir. What can I do for you?
Hello, I'm a friend of Klaus. He said that you might have some trouble, so I came to see if I can help.
Ah? Did Klaus summon you?
Come in and sit. Nellie Winlancy looked at Chen Zhao in surprise. Klaus is in Africa right now. He can't come back for now, so he asked me to come. May I ask if you're in trouble? Nellie Winlancy's expression was troubled. Her eyes darted around for a moment before she said, I owe some money. Chen Zhao pushed a check in front of Nellie Winlancy. Nellie Winlancy was shocked when she saw the number on the check. The money she borrowed from Klaus was 10,000, but the check Chen Zhao pushed over was 1 million. No, it's not that much money. Nellie Winlancy waved her hands in fear. It's okay. This money is Klaus's, Chen Zhao said. If you get married in the future, his money will be yours too. We haven't decided yet. Ms. Nellie, can you tell me how you use the money? Chen Zhao asked. I bought a fund, and then I got cheated. How did you get tricked? How did they lie to you? Chen Zhao asked again. Nellie Winlancy told him the whole story. However, Chen Zhao was a bit confused. Wait a moment. I'm not familiar with finance. I'll get a professional lawyer to come. Chen Zhao called Alex and told her to hurry over. It didn't take long for Alex to arrive. Chen Zhao asked Nellie Winlancy to describe what had happened to her. Then, Alex told Chen Zhao about Nellie Winlancy's situation. To put it simply, this Miss Nellie Winlancy was tricked into buying a fund. The fund hid the total purchase amount and the installment purchase amount. For example, if I ask you to buy a fund, I can tell you that the total purchase amount is only $10,000. In fact, $10,000 isn't the total purchase amount, but the purchase amount for each installment. In other words, she needs to pay $10,000 for each installment. If she doesn't pay for each installment, it means she's in breach of contract. Not only will the purchase amount be confiscated, but she will also have to pay a penalty. You can do that? It was Chen Zhao's first time hearing about such a scam. Ms. Nellie Winlancy, where were you when you signed the contract? At my house. Not at their company, right? Oh, yes. Then did you get an explanation of the contract terms when you signed the contract? What do you mean? That is to say, in the key terms of the contract, did you get a professional lawyer to explain the contract terms? No. Does the contract require a lawyer to be present? Alex nodded and turned to look at Chen Zhao. It's a small problem. It's easy to solve legally. These scam companies are full of loopholes. Even if they have the contract, they can easily solve it. However, these companies often threaten and even use violence against the victims. Okay, I understand. You'll be in charge of the legal matters. I'll handle the non-legal matters. Miss Neri, Chen Zhao said, since your personal safety is in danger, I suggest you call Klaus first. Okay. Nellie Winlancy immediately called Klaus. Klaus wanted Nellie Wen Lancy to listen to Qin Zhao's arrangements. "Ms. Nellie, I'll arrange a safe place for you first," Qin Zhao said. Nellie Wen Lancy nodded. Then she asked, "What about my job?" "You can only ask for leave for now." Chapter 1929. Qin Zhao brought Nellie Wen Lancy to the headquarters. It was empty. Only Aduz, Jiggs, and his unconscious wife were here. "You can stay here temporarily until Klaus comes back," Qin Zhao said, pointing at the headquarters. "As long as it's empty, you can choose any room you want." Aduz ran over. "President, who's this?" "Klaus's girlfriend. She's in some trouble, so she's staying here temporarily." "Hello, miss," Aduz said. "I'm Aduz, the security guard here. You can tell me if you have any trouble." Nellie Wen Lancy looked at the headquarters before her. She was a bit dizzy. When Qin Zhao brought her here, they'd passed a forest path. She'd been worried that Qin Zhao had evil intentions. However, Qin Zhao hadn't done anything bad to her. As for the headquarters of the association and the tall tower of trials next to the headquarters, they all made her a little confused. "Where exactly is this?" "Miss Neri," Qin Zhao said. "I don't plan on restricting your freedom of movement, but if you want to go out, you better inform me. After all, I promised Klaus to take good care of you." "Thank you. Then I'll leave first. Aduz, help Miss Neri choose a room." "Okay, Miss Neri. Please come in." Nellie Wen Lancy followed Aduz into the headquarters. When Nellie Wen Lancy walked into a room, she suddenly saw what was inside through the half-closed door. A man stood in front of a huge container, and inside the container was a naked woman. "Ah!" Nellie Wen Lancy screamed in fright. Aduz was also shocked. "What's wrong?" "Inside. Inside. Who are you? What are you doing to me?" Nellie Wen Lancy thought that Qin Zhao had brought her here to soak her in the container too. At this time, Nellie Wen Lancy's imagination had already started to run wild and fill in the blanks. Just then, Jiggs opened the door and walked out. "Mr. Aduz, who's this lady?" "She's a family member of one of our members," Aduz said. "She might have misunderstood something." Jiggs looked at Nellie Wen Lancy. "Miss, did you see my wife in the healing container and think we're performing some evil ritual? Isn't it?" Nellie Wen Lancy leaned against the wall and stared at Jiggs and Aduz in fear. "No, the one inside is my wife. She was injured and is receiving treatment in that container." Nellie Wen Lancy looked at Aduz and Jiggs with a skeptical gaze. After a moment of hesitation, she plucked up her courage and looked into the room again. At the same time, she also saw some instruments beside the container. One of the screens looked like a heart rate monitor. What happened to her?" Jiggs did not want to talk about that nightmarish night. "Don't ask. It's not a happy memory for Ziggs," Aduz said. "There are empty rooms in the past. You can stay in whichever room you want." Nellie Wen Lancy chose a room next to Jiggs and then Aduz left. Nellie Wen Lancy realized that Aduz indeed had no intention of restricting her movements. He did not even take away her phone. After some thought, Nellie Wen Lancy decided to call Klaus. This place gave her a strange feeling. She could not tell what exactly was strange. Anyway, Nellie Wen Lancy just felt strange. "Klaus, can you tell me what you do?" "Your friend, Mr. Chen, brought me to a place called the headquarters." Klaus was silent for a moment before saying, "All my secrets are there. You can learn as much as you can. If you know enough, Aduz will tell you about me and the secrets there. I can only tell you that my friend and I aren't bad people. At least, we won't hurt you. If you don't want to stay there, or if you don't want to accept me keeping my secrets, then leave. But before I come back, please accept my protection." Klaus's tone remained calm and unperturbed. Klaus had already considered this when he asked Qin Zhao to do this. "Okay, I understand." Nellie Wen Lancy already understood what Klaus meant. There were some secrets hidden here. It was related to Klaus and the other people here. Klaus would not stop her from exploring this place. Nellie Wen Lancy first went to Jiggs and Maev's room. Nellie Winlancey knocked on the door. "Hello, can I come in?" Jiggs turned to look at Nellie Winlancey. "Hello, please come in." When Nellie Winlancey entered the room, the first thing she did was to observe Maeve in the container. "Mr. Jiggs, your wife. Are you sure she's fine soaking like this?" Jiggs's eyes were lifeless, but his tone was still firm. "If you knew about Maeve's previous injuries, you wouldn't have such a question." Even now, there were still many marks on Maeve's body. "Why didn't you send her to the hospital?" "The hospital can't save her." "Are you sure it's okay here?" "I'm sure." Jiggs nodded calmly. It wasn't a pleasant memory. He was even more unwilling to share that night with others. "It's dinner time," Jiggs said. "Let's go to the restaurant." "Is there food here?" "Everything is provided here." Jiggs smiled faintly. "This is their company's headquarters. It's a combination of office and living." When they reached the restaurant, Jiggs said, "It's a buffet. Help yourself." "So much food?" "Just the two of us. Aduz eats here too." "That's only 3. The food here can feed at least 100 people, right?" "They're used to it." "Oh, right. There's a chef here. They definitely want to eat too." Jiggs was used to this place and knew all the secrets hidden here. In fact, the food was also provided to the people in the dungeon. The food here was good. Nellie Winlancey had a good dinner. "I feel like the chef here is better than those big restaurants." "Of course the chef here is good." Jiggs smiled. The chef here was an old ghost. Before he died, he'd once been a chef at the White House State Banquet. Jiggs only learned about it later. Just then, Aduz pushed a dining cart over. Nellie Winlancey saw that Aduz had brought a lot of food. He seemed to be sending it somewhere. "Is there anyone else here other than us?" "I don't know," Jiggs replied calmly. Chapter 1930. "Chen, I heard from Jerlin that you put sand in our dinner when you went to the kitchen. She must have seen wrongly." Chen Zhao glanced at Jerlin. "Right, darling?" Fei Lai rolled her eyes at Chen Zhao and knocked his head. "It's fine if you threaten others outside, but you're actually threatening your own daughter at home." "I was just wondering why I kept feeling disgusted during dinner." Chen Zhao frowned. Chen Zhao placed the primordial stone on the table. "This is what I put in. It tastes bad, but it's full of vitality. It's good for the body. No matter how good it is, it's useless if it can't be digested. I don't want to eat sand for every meal," Fei Lai said in disgust. Fei Lai said with a look of disgust, "Don't put this in our food again." Chen Zhao also didn't think that it was a good idea. If he ate too much, his whole family would get stones. That would be hilarious. "Forget it. Let's wait until we find a suitable way to eat it." Chen Zhao didn't force it. Since his family didn't like it, he'd let it go. "I'm going out for a while." "Business?" "Yes. Kao's girlfriend was tricked by a group of scammers. I need to deal with it." Alex had already found out who was behind the swindlers. The scammers first used fraud to make the victims lose money. If the victims reacted and called the police, they would harass and threaten them with methods that surpassed scammers. They would even use violent methods to hurt the victims or their relatives. It was an extremely evil criminal group. Chen Zhao obtained more information from David. The criminal group had already been blacklisted by the police. It was a key target. However, none of the victims in the past were willing to testify. Therefore, the criminal group had been able to get away with it. "Hello, Mr. Chen. I'm Otis." Chen Zhao sat before Otis and shook his hand. "Hello? How much do you know about the fund our company launched? I want to know. Can your fund really reach 10% annual profit?" "Of course. I can promise you that our company has many clients who have worked with us for more than 5 years. Those big clients have never backed out." "Okay, I want to buy 2 million, Chen Zhao said. "All right, no problem." Otis did not show it on the surface, but he was overjoyed. This was a big fish. The moment he opened his mouth, he wanted to buy 2 million USD. And the rarest thing was that this person was an Asian. Even after the incident, a little intimidation would be enough to make him not dare to speak out.
Mr. Chen, this is the contract. Please take a look.
Otis took out the contract he had prepared. He wasn't afraid that Chen Zhao would see through the contract. Most of the words used in the contract were actually quite convoluted. If one was not a law professional, it would be very difficult to get around it. Not to mention this kind of contract with obvious traps. Even if it was a conventional contract, it would be written in terms that were hard to understand at first glance. Chen Zhao looked at the contract.
Why is the purchase amount blank? Mr. Chen, this is because you didn't tell me how much you want to buy, so the purchase amount is temporarily empty. After you sign the contract, we will fill in the purchase amount. Then how can I be sure that you won't write down a random number? Mr. Chen, we're a big company. We won't fill in a random number. I see. Okay then.
Chen Zhao signed his name and pressed his fingerprint on it. After confirming Chen Zhao's signature, Otis' smile grew wider.
Thank you, Mr. Chen. I believe that we will have a pleasant cooperation. Mr. Chen, how do you plan on paying this money? This is the check.
Chen Zhao pushed the check to Otis. When Otis saw the check, his face was full of smiles. But when he saw the name on the back, his expression froze again.
Why is it a registered check? Isn't that obvious?
Smiling, Chen Zhao looked at Otis.
If it's an anonymous check, I won't be able to get anything. Does Mr. Otis think that there's something wrong with my check? No, nothing.
Otis still didn't change his expression.
Okay, since we're done with the contract, I'll leave first.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Just as Chen Zhao was about to leave, he stopped and turned back to look at Otis.
Mr. Chen, is there anything else? I suddenly remembered that you haven't given me the copy of the contract. I almost forgot. Please wait.
Otis gave Chen Zhao a copy of the contract. Otis didn't care what Chen Zhao would do after getting the copy. There were far fewer traps in this contract. Almost every clause had a trap. Of course, it would be best if the copy was lost. After Chen Zhao left with the copy, Otis made a call. Otis always liked to use this method for big clients like Chen Zhao. First, he snatched the copy of the contract. As long as the client lost the copy, he had 100 ways to swallow the money. Chen Zhao left the building and called Alex.
Alex, I've already signed the contract. Are you sure that I won't lose the money? Of course. I can guarantee that not only will it not be lost, but I'll also make these scammers pay me until they go bankrupt. Okay, then I'll wait for your good news. Oh, right. If they're involved in attacking clients and cause financial or physical damage, will the compensation increase? Sure, but you better provide a diagnosis report. I don't have a diagnosis report, but my sports car will be damaged in the attack. That's fine too, Alex replied. You recorded your conversation just now, right? Yes, it's all recorded. Then it's even better.
Chen Zhao drove his sports car past an intersection. Just then, a large truck ran a red light and crashed toward Chen Zhao's car. Chen Zhao glanced at the truck. He didn't try to dodge and just let it hit him. Boom! Chen Zhao's car was sent flying. The truck driver planned to escape. However, Chen Zhao burst the truck's tires and it flipped over at the intersection. Chen Zhao alighted from the now useless sports car. Seeing that the truck driver was unconscious, he took out his phone.
Hey David, I'm in trouble.
Chapter 1931. David had brought people over. The first thing they saw was the tragic scene of the car accident. However, when David saw that Chen Zhao was unharmed and that Chen Zhao was carrying a wounded person, he heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at Chen Zhao's annoying face, David went up and punched Chen Zhao.
Tell me, what's going on? First of all, one of my friend's family members was cheated by a financial fraud company, and then I was also cheated, and I was cheated up to $2 million. After that group of people cheated me of $2 million, they planned to kill me. I think you can dig out some useful confessions from them. David stared at Qin Zhao. Were you really tricked? David knew Qin Zhao very well. Qin Zhao would never buy financial products. Qin Zhao never touched things he wasn't familiar with. Finance was exactly what Qin Zhao wasn't familiar with. Looking at Qin Zhao's expression, he wasn't angry at being tricked at all. It was a smile that people would only have when they fell into his trap. Okay, David said. Come with me to record the statement. I'm not the suspect, I'm the victim. You're worse than the criminals. I think I might be injured. I need to go to the hospital for an injury evaluation, Qin Zhao suddenly said, clutching his chest in pain. Are you serious? David couldn't tell if Qin Zhao was serious or not. Qin Zhao's shoulders shook slightly and dislocated. Then, he said in a calm tone, if you can submit an injury assessment report afterwards, I can also go back with you directly to make a statement. Do you have a deep grudge against those people? David looked at Qin Zhao with a bitter smile. Qin Zhao stabbed 5 fingers into his chest. David was completely speechless. He'd taken strengthening potions before, so his recovery was many times stronger than normal people's. However, he couldn't hurt himself like Qin Zhao. It's not about hatred. The people who were tricked are my subordinates' families. It's a matter of principle, Qin Zhao said. Also, you don't have to pity them. With their crimes, even the death penalty is not enough. You should be glad that I didn't throw them off the roof. Okay, I understand. But even if you caused the injury yourself, can't you make it more presentable? A finger piercing through the chest, no matter how I look at it, doesn't look like it was caused by a car accident. When he arrived at the police station, he saw that Sharon was still there. Qin, what did you do today? Sharon looked at Qin Zhao with evil intentions. What's the point of us taxpayers paying civil servants like you? Qin Zhao retorted. Usually, whenever I do something small, you'll appear before me. But now, I got into a car accident on the street and you're nowhere to be seen. Car accident? You don't look hurt. Sharon looked him up and down. Qin Zhao pulled open his collar, revealing the wound on his chest. Look, I'm hurt. Sharon didn't know what was going on and was shocked. How did you get hurt so badly? Why don't you go to the hospital? Just then, David walked in with a document. Don't mind him. He did it himself. David didn't avoid Sarah. He took out a document and said, So far, we've found some clues. That big truck was stolen, and the driver who hit your car wasn't the owner, but a gambler. In addition, the company you mentioned can be said to be guilty of many crimes. As long as the gambler is willing to talk, it'll be easy to get someone from that company. The driver isn't willing to talk? That's a bit troublesome. Let me talk to the gambler. You can't use violence against him, David said. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. At least, I won't use violence in the police station. Qin Zhao entered the interrogation room where the driver was. After only 3 minutes, Qin Zhao came out. The driver was a gangster and a gambler. But he was still a normal person. The person he was facing was a spiritualist, and a rich one at that. Unless he had 10 times the willpower of a normal person, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Otherwise, it wouldn't be difficult for a spiritualist to make a normal person talk. Intimidation, threats, direct shock, or even magic could easily destroy a normal person's mind. All of them could easily destroy a normal person's mind. Okay, he's willing to talk. David knew that Qin Zhao must have used some unusual methods. So, he didn't ask about the entire process. After entering the interrogation room, David didn't waste too much time either. He'd never interrogated a suspect so smoothly before. The entire process was too easy. The suspect answered all his questions. When he came out, Qin Zhao was sitting at the desk in the police station, chatting with a few police officers. He even proudly showed off his injuries. David was even more speechless. He went up and patted Qin Zhao's shoulder heavily. David, be gentle. I'm hurt. The guy already told us everything. Okay, then let's arrest him. Also, my lawyer is almost here. What? You called the lawyer again? There were all kinds of enemies in the world. Police and lawyers were undoubtedly enemies too. Lawyers were the last people the police wanted to deal with. I can't help it. I'm not good at this. It's not your first time either. What I'm good at is letting the professionals handle it. David could only go and arrest them. This time, the evidence was solid, so he didn't have to worry. Moreover, these people were guilty of the most heinous crimes. The police had been meticulously collecting evidence of their crimes. Now that the opportunity was delivered to them, the police had no reason to reject it. Alex came with a group of bandit lawyers. There was a professional term in the legal world, bandit lawyer. It referred to lawyers who liked to exaggerate cases, increase compensation, and increase the number of crimes. This type of lawyer was the bandit lawyer. For example, the Chinese man who'd been dragged off a United Airlines flight 2 years ago had received tens of millions of dollars in compensation and hired a bandit lawyer. Because of that incident, many Chinese people became loyal customers of United Airlines. Even Qin Zhao had gone to apply for a VIP account. They all hoped that they could get the same treatment as the Chinese man and be dragged off the plane. Every law firm had a group of bandit lawyers. Moreover, bandit lawyers had always been loved by their clients. This was because they could always get the most out of their clients. This time, Alex didn't just bring lawyers from her law firm. She also brought some famous bandit lawyers in LA. This was Qin Zhao's request. He didn't care about the price. If he could sentence these people to death, he didn't want a life sentence. Chapter 1932. Otis and all the higher-ups in the company were sent to the police station. They were all still dumbfounded. When Otis saw Qin Zhao, he was clearly stunned. "Mr. Qin, why are you here?" Otis asked, confused. "I was in a car accident. The perpetrator said something that pissed me off." Qin Zhao smiled at Otis. "Mr. Qin, could there be some kind of misunderstanding?" Otis's face darkened. "I don't care if it's a misunderstanding or not. I just need an answer. As long as it's related to this case, I won't let them leave prison alive." Qin Zhao stood up and patted Otis' shoulder. "Just like my old enemy, I don't care how much I spend. I'm willing to spend $1 million or $10 million, or even more." "Oh, good luck." After Qin Zhao left, David walked over. "Mr. Otis, you're in big trouble. I'm waiting for my lawyer. He's not here. I refuse to answer any questions." Of course. If the prosecution was a commoner or the police, the lawyer could indeed put a lot of pressure on the prosecution. But now, the prosecution was someone even richer than them. As for the suspect, he had a lot of bad records. The police also had a lot of evidence. In Otis's interrogation room, his lawyer hadn't arrived yet. Qin Zhao's legal team came in. Without saying anything, each of them carried a large number of documents and started reading them before Otis. This caused the atmosphere in the interrogation room to become extremely tense. "Police? Who are they?" "Oh, they're lawyers, but not yours. I haven't received a summons from the court yet. They can't appear here. I want them to leave immediately. If they're here, I refuse to answer any questions." "They're reading the victim's charges," David said, unconcerned. Actually, the lawyers of both parties couldn't meet or interact with the other party's representatives. However, there were too many loopholes in this kind of thing. "Mr. Otis, according to our client's request, we're going to sue you. The charges include attempted murder, causing serious injury, intentionally destroying valuable property, huge financial fraud, and inciting others to rob. There's also civil compensation, including our client's financial losses. The total amount is over $200 million. "What?" "You're framing me. Whether it's a false accusation or not is up to the court to decide," the leading lawyer said. "I don't have $200 million US. I can't even take out $2 million US." Otis was not the leader of the scam, but one of the higher-ups. Even the head of the fraud group couldn't take out $200 million US.
He didn't even have 20 million US dollars. The total amount of money they had swindled was less than $20 million. That's your problem, but we can guarantee that the compensation will be decided. All of your assets will be used as compensation. Even after you get out of prison, you'll have nothing. You can't do this. Police, they're threatening us. Audis panicked. The police will also file a criminal complaint against you. You will be sent to court for second-degree murder, endangering public safety, threatening, and intentional injury, David said indifferently. At this moment, the appointed lawyer arrived at the scene. This lawyer was not Audis's personal lawyer, but a lawyer specially assigned to him by the police. Most of the time, this kind of lawyer was just going through the motions. After seeing the group of people in the room, he understood the situation. This lawyer had already given up on Audis in his heart. For a case like this with concrete evidence, all he could do was follow the procedure. If Audis needed it, he could ask the judge for leniency. That was pretty much all he could do. Of course, considering that it wasn't just the police who filed the lawsuit, it also involved a super tycoon. Then the pleading step could be skipped. With all these crimes added up, even if Audis could get out of prison, it would be 30 years of loss. This lawyer admired Audis. He even scammed a super tycoon. From all the signs, it was obvious that this super tycoon was purposely messing with him. Just the cost of a team of bandit lawyers in the interrogation room was very high. These bandit lawyers were not comparable to a lawyer like him who specialized in public security, procuratorial, and judicial work. Their efficiency and professionalism, as well as their fees, were all 10 times or even tens of times more than a normal lawyer. Of course, as long as they could control the case, the profits would also be high. Since everyone is here, let's start the interrogation, David said expressionlessly. I want them to leave, Audis said as he pointed at the bandit lawyers. The appointed lawyer was in a difficult position. He didn't want to go against these bandit lawyers. The name of the bandit lawyers was notorious in the industry. Of course, compared to their notorious reputation, they were much more professional than their peers. Mr. Audis, are you sure you want to expel us from here? If you insist, I can guarantee that you will never be able to leave prison, the leading lawyer said. You're threatening. You all saw it, Audis yelled agitatedly. The appointed lawyer sighed and said, Mr. Audis, please calm down. The current situation is very disadvantageous to you. I think you should cooperate with them and not fight them. That won't do you any good. What do you mean? Are you my lawyer or not? If you're not satisfied with my work, you can ask for a new lawyer, but it doesn't matter who comes. The plaintiff has already submitted a financial loss report and injury report to the court. The financial loss is more than 200 million US dollars, and that injury report can add at least 3 years to your sentence. At this moment, Audis realized that the entire world was standing against him. Even his lawyer was the same. He had no intention of helping him at all. If I cooperate, what can I get? At least you won't die in prison, the leading lawyer said. Cough, cough. David coughed. Chen Zhao's legal team was too explicit with their words. From what I know, the plaintiff's assets are more than $10 billion, David said. I think you should cooperate. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.